What up, homies? It's your boy Stev. I'm here with a cool group of people. Kiwi Productions, cinematographer, filmmaker, actor sometimes, Derrick.
Hi. Yes, hey, good to be here.
Kiwi Productions, editor, script supervisor, actress, Olivia.
Hello.
And we are talking Dune. And I'm talking about everything Dune. We're talking Lynch, we're talking Villeneuve, we're talking Jodorowsky. And that's pretty much it. We're not talking about the book or anything.
No miniseries. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited. You excited?
Yes.
Rock on. Coming up next. All right, we're talking about Dune today.
Okay.
Great. I'm excited. Something that I didn't really know a lot of, it was Dune. I was aware of the David Lynch movie, watched it, didn't really get it, and I thought, oh, well, this is just, Star Wars is better, right? So it's like, I was excited to like have a new Dune now, like there's like a new movie, and I'm just excited what that story uncovered and just the whole story. It's like we're going through all the Dune movies today, but it's making me want to read the book. Like I want to actually crack it open and see what that's about, because I think there's a lot of really rich material in this, and it's cool that it's kind of been done like every so often, like every generation or two it misses and they do it again, and it's really cool, I think.
So I did read the book. I read it back in high school though, not recently, and I would recommend it. However, I would say that, in my personal opinion, both versions, so the Lynch version and the Villeneuve version, are actually both kind of pretty good adaptations of it. You know what I mean? They're good enough adaptations of it. There's a lot more, I don't know, it's richer. It's definitely full of more, lore and whatnot. But I think you see the movies, you got a good version of the story, personally. What did you think of Dune, period?
Okay. Sorry.
Okay, how about this? Okay, how
Like
about this?
which one?
Let's do this.
Are you Dune the franchise or just
if
Dune
you were going to recommend Dune to anybody, would you recommend Lynch's or would you recommend the Villeneuve remake?
No, Denis Villeneuve's versions. Like, I think there's enough time for everything to be properly explored. Like, I get it; it's a dense book and there's a big story there, but I think hands down, Villeneuve did, I think, the best job. I think so far it's something where you can kind of get into it because it's got a lot of A-list, like it's an all star-studded cast with a lot of people and probably like in some capacity, right? And it's like the top-notch, like the best special effects. Everything is like the money's there on the screen. It's well made. It's not like it's like tacky or flashy or anything. It's well made. It's well thought out. That would be hands down what I recommend.
Okay, how about you?
So I think it depends on the person.
That's a good point.
So I know my dad watched these two, like the newer ones, and didn't know that there was an older movie or even that there was a book. He had no idea that the book existed before Star Wars or anything like that.
Okay.
So he was messaging me after seeing it, complaining that it wasn't complete. Because
you saw part one?
It ends on, no, part two. It still ends on kind of like a cliffhanger. Like there's more story to be told still.
100%. That was actually my biggest problem with number 2. Was I was excited to end the story. It's the ending of the first book. I'm like, okay, cool. It's part 1 and part 2. And then the fact that they're like, oh no, we're gonna do like a cliffhanger ending for like a part 3. I'm like, oh fuck that. Like it ruined it for me a little bit.
Well,
it's like, oh, so is this a middle movie? Are we doing a part 3?
Well, can I ask then? Like, so why does everyone love Empire Strikes Back so much? Like, honestly.
Well, I don't know.
Like, everybody's like, oh my goodness, Empire Strikes Back. Blah, blah, blah. That's part 2 of like a bigger story that George Lucas was telling, and nobody bats an eyelash at any of those movies. Nobody. Like,
that's the whole fanboy issue.
Yeah.
Is it a fanboy issue? Because, like, here's
so.
what I'm saying. Like, the story continues, and the story gets worse, right? In a lot of ways, like, if Paul is your hero, like, this is his glory. Like, this is his rise to power, and he's in his glory. Bro, it's going to get worse before it gets, like, any better than this. This is the best it gets. So it's like, yes, there's going to be more story. Yes, it's going to continue, and it's going to keep going even after Paul. So it's like, people love slice of life movies or whatever. This is like a slice of the hero's rise to power, and it's an amazing, like, journey from, like, nothing. Like, sure, he's royalty. I get it. But from literally, like, left in the desert to die to I'm in charge of the universe now. That's like kind of like a huge, like, okay, a fanboy fantasy, but like I think that's a super huge, like, human fantasy to like conquer and like be the best at something. And
it's actually funny you bring that up. That's the first thing it's something I thought about watching at this time too. It's almost Shakespearean.
Oh, definitely.
Like this idea. It's almost like Hamlet. Like,
yes.
Oh,
yes.
His whole fucking tribe died. Like his dad, everybody is dead now. And it's like him rising literally from the ashes and becoming like the leader. Yeah. So it's very true.
Yeah. And with that, okay, because we're going to talk about Dune in its entirety, but you said theatrical, like theater. And I think the fact that Jodorowsky, like if we're going to go there, we'll go to Alejandro Jodorowsky, who comes from theater and like is able to bring, like, I think very much he didn't care, like watching the documentary, like he said, I came from theater. I didn't know film terminology. I didn't know focal lengths. I did none of that. I didn't care. I was going to make this thing. And like that idea, that theater idea, I understand why he was attracted to Dune, because it's theater, but he gets to make it into a movie, like a sci-fi movie at the same time, right? So it's like it's in his wheelhouse.
For sure.
Like yeah.
One thing I actually really like about is it Jodorowsky's Dune?
I say
Jodorowsky, whatever.
But I don't know. Like in the documentary, there's other people that are pronouncing it differently too. So it's like to each his own, I guess. He says it his own way. So it's like, well, whatever way he says.
If there's one thing I actually really liked about that, it's this idea that the fact that he was going to make this movie before Star Wars. Like, there's a world out there. There's another dimension where he got to make this movie.
Yeah.
And it was a couple of years before Star Wars. So it's like, say that happens. Does Star Wars come out?
Oh,
like,
good question.
Are we living in a world? Is there another dimension out there where Dune is the Star Wars?
Yeah. Here's what I predict, because I agree with you, but we're forgetting 2001, which came out in 1968. So here's the thing. Like, Jodorowsky is groundbreaking, and he's pushing boundaries, but I still think you would have had Kubrick inspire Lucas, which does happen, and Lucas goes on to make Star Wars. But it might have been competition, and it might have also changed the outlook for what Star Wars is. But Jodorowsky was attempting to make a 10 to 14 hour long movie. I'm sorry, dude, but like nobody has the attention span, even back then, to sit for 14 hours, not even a theatrical play or whatever. So you're going to have to start cutting your babies, bro. And like his refusal to do that, I think, is ultimately what tanked the film. Like, if you can't slice them off the top, it has to be 14 hours. Sorry, bro. Like, everybody turned you down for a reason.
It's a very good point.
You should have had enough sense to figure out what was the best. Or, like George Lucas, or like whatever, is like, no, there's more here. We're going to make movies, and we're going to make a franchise. Like, we're going to talk to the business people in terminology they understand. Like, we got to break this up and make it into a trilogy. We got to do it. Like, but he wasn't into that. And I think that's unfortunate.
But I mean, it's very true. He was very much his own worst enemy. Like, even like to the point where, like, he was just throwing money at everything.
That's not
like, okay, like this is getting outrageous.
But and like Dali, like to get Salvador Dali for what, like 5 minutes or whatever, like you're wasting your time. Get an actor who's committed to like wanting to do it. You're wasting your time. Don't get me wrong though, like his choices, bro. Like, I'm talking like, okay, first of all, Pink Floyd. Yeah. Hello. Mick Jagger. Oh my goodness. Orson Welles
as the Baron would have been like, what the fuck?
Oh
like,
my goodness. It's actually kind of a film fanboy's dream, like cast or whatever. And it's like you're utilizing everybody perfectly. Like, he understands casting really well. Like, I think he got that.
And he would have cast a Paul Atreides that is the right age, which I like. Like, let's be honest, Kyle MacLachlan, whatever the fuck his name is.
He's too old.
He's like a 35-year-old, 50-year-old. Let's be honest here. Like,
he's too old.
Like, he's like 15 going on 40, right? I mean,
oh yeah.
Jodorowsky wanted his own son to be Paul, though, and he put him through all that training and stuff just to be a character. He wanted his son to literally be Paul, though.
It's true.
I don't know. I think he took it a little too far with his son there, especially for a movie that never panned out.
Oh yeah.
And that's like, but going back to this, he's his own worst enemy kind of situation.
Definitely.
So yeah, no, I what did you think of the documentary as a whole, though? As a documentary,
oh my goodness,
what do we think?
dude. Okay, so where I almost got teary eyed was when here's my thing. The documentary is great, but really what I wanted was a 14-hour documentary where they just flipped the book one page at a time, and I got to see everything like Nicholas Winding Refn got to see, and like pretty much if Jodorowsky was just flipping the book and talking at the camera for 14 hours, that's what I wanted, like on top of like what they were talking about, because you get a really good history into like him as a filmmaker and like as an actor too, and you also see that he kind of talking about being his own worst enemy, you kind of shop around this big, thick book of ideas to like all the studios, and of course they're gonna lift all the best things from it. But like we're talking like the first movie to do the heads-up display, because he has to fight a robot at some point that's supposed to be the Emperor, which is fantastic. Like fighting a robot version of the Emperor is different than the Dune movies that we get.
Oh,
and I would have been like, how do you do that? Like stop motion? Like I have no idea. But like that and like just giving pretty much the studios like the heads up display like in Terminator, doing like that extra long like zoom in like through space is pretty much the opening of Contact. I was thinking these things like as the movie's unfolding, and then the end of the movie it's like, yeah, he pretty much like kind of stimulated like science fiction as we know it now. Even like the fact that Dan O'Bannon was the special effects supervisor,
and Geiger,
and then like
Alien.
and Geiger, right? Like all these things are like in all of our sci-fi now. He broke this movie up and it became what sci-fi we know is now, and it's like in everywhere. Even like the newest Aliens had that like Geiger-esque like temple that was supposed to be the Baron or whatever and stuff like that. So it's like it's cool. Obviously like there's people who are influenced by that, like
Definitely.
like he had a lot of influence on that, but I don't know. I wish the movie was made. I still think even if he wanted to make it 14 hours or whatever, like if he was able to make it, like I would have loved to have seen it and gawk at it like people do for El Topo and Holy Mountain, which I haven't seen yet or whatever.
I will say though, like, so 14 hours is crazy.
Nuts.
I mean, is it much crazier than 6 hours that Villeneuve got? Like, that's crazy for this story, if you ask me. That's a long fucking movie. Like, so that's just my personal
That's what
opinion.
I was thinking too. He just needs it to be 4 parts instead, and then it would almost be the same.
Like Denis Villeneuve's?
No, the
Alejandro.
Jodorowsky, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Like if instead of trying to make one 14-hour movie, he broke it up into part 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Like a Star Wars.
Exactly.
Do a trilogy.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And that was pre Star Wars too,
Pre-Star
right?
Wars.
So it's like he was cutting edge, but he still didn't have all the pieces and stuff like. So it's like I don't know.
You know what? Let's go back to what you were saying. So you said, so you compared us not liking the end of part 2 to The Empire Strikes Back, and like, why don't we like?
Well, yeah.
Why don't we? No, I think the problem was you promised the end of a movie, and then you're like, oh no, guess what? No, there's a part 3 coming out.
Yeah.
Because it's part 2. They split the book into 2. It's
Yeah.
like, all right, you're splitting this movie into 2. It's fucking stupid. Whatever. I'm gonna watch it. Let's do it. But then all of a sudden, the end of 2 was like, oh no, guess what? There's a 3 coming out. And it's like, ah, man, you lied to me. No.
Is it confirmed that 3's coming?
Yeah, they did confirm
all
it.
Okay.
I believe they confirmed it the same weekend as Dune 2. I could be wrong on that, though.
Oh yeah,
I'm pretty sure they confirmed
But like,
it.
I get it. Like, it's a great movie. Like the second one right now, I don't know what it's doing box office wise, but it's sticking around, or at least it did. It's a little while now. I don't know, like if I could go see it right now, but
I know the first one didn't do very well, but it was right in the middle.
Dude, it was during so
and they released it on Warner Brothers.
Right, HBO Max. So I think to your thing too, right? Like, yeah, I get what you mean, but the movie was always kind of rocky. Like, yeah, they called it part 1, and then like, okay, well, did they even plan for part 2? Like, they didn't shoot them back to back, or did they? Like, I don't know. Like,
I don't think so.
Right, so there was some time. So I felt like it was always kind of up in the air. Like, will we get to finish this? Will I get to go further with it? Like, I get it. It's based off a book. Star Wars is based off of other people's ideas, whatever. But like, I still think that like maybe not sci-fi, but like space epics that are like broken up into chunks are like we're okay with it. Like, I get it. I get the story, right? But like, it's okay if that like in this movie, the whole story doesn't happen. Now, who promised that it was the end? Like, did Denis say?
Well,
like,
no, it's more the idea, right? I mean, we know there's like 10 or so books. I'm not really sure how many books there are.
Yeah,
there's a lot of books. I know there was like some of them are written by Herbert himself, and then they go on, right? But I just think it's like, no, you're doing an adaptation of the first book. I'm cool with it. And just like, oh, now we're gonna make it a franchise.
But
and I'm just like,
let's go.
I
don't know. Go for it. Like, do you know what happens in like?
I do.
Like later things. Okay, so like, what I'm kind of excited for is to see if they go accurate with how Paul ends, like his demise.
Okay.
And like, what about his children, right?
Yeah.
And so stuff like that's where I'm excited for things to go, because this whole love triangle that it leaves you with at the end of part 2, like like. That's exciting stuff that I get why people are like, well, come on. Oh, like, who does he go with? Like, what? I don't know. Like, what are you missing? Like, aside from like, okay, it's not over. They're about to go to a giant epic war, right?
Well,
like, did you want to see that?
No,
like,
and that's okay. And there's another thing too. Like, all right, you even said like how their kids and stuff end up. Well, like even I mean we'll get more into it I think in when we talk about the second one, but like they removed a character from the book. Like Paul has a child with Chadi in the book.
Okay.
So like,
Yeah.
right?
He's twins, I think.
I think he just has. Oh, that's later. I think
okay.
He has two. There's two Leto Juniors.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a boy girl. Like it was like Luke and Leia.
Okay, no. He has a boy first, and then the boy's murdered.
Okay.
And that's the original Leto Junior. Leto the second. So named after his father.
Okay.
And then he has another kid. He has twins later, and he
Okay.
names that kid also
Leto.
Leto the second.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
pretty sure, but
Okay. I'm fuzzy because I've never read any of the books. I don't know, so I'm just.
and that's it.
bit
And here's the thing: I'm going off of shit that I remember
yeah.
from like high school. This is like 15, 20 years ago. So, but which is a crazy thing to say out loud. Now that I'm saying, like doing that math, I'm like, holy shit!
It's been some time.
But no, it's.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. Like, no offense to like the redundant kid, but like, would that have added just a complication to this movie?
It would,
right.
100%
I feel
would.
like there's certain things. Obviously, it's not like a perfect adaptation. Even going back to Jodorowsky, the movie ends with him saying, "I raped the movie. I raped the book. I raped it." Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, stop saying rape.
Yeah, be honest. How awkward was that moment?
Yeah,
Like,
right. You're like,
it's just
oh, this documentary was 10 seconds a little bit too long, right? Yeah. You should have cut it before he started saying rape. But like, of course you do. You're gonna take the book and adapt it the best way, based on what you have. And like, I get the love triangle thing, whether they have a love child or not. Like, it's still a strong, like, oh my goodness, this love triangle. Like, I get it. Like,
Yeah.
so like, be accurate. You have a whole other movie. You have Anna Taylor-Joy like queued up, ready to go, and like you have, I think, enough for at least another movie where you get to see these kind of characters grow up a little bit and change from what you expected them to be. Like their hopes and like your hope that you had for them when they were rising to power, especially Paul, like. It doesn't work out the way you think it should, or like for how quickly and how awesome he grew, it doesn't end like nice. So I don't know.
Yeah.
That's kind of exciting. I honestly do. If they make a part 3 Dune, it'll feel like The Godfather Part 3, and that's okay with me. Like that's also another thing too, not sci-fi or whatever. Everyone's cool with those movies like going on forever and stuff like that. Oh my goodness, The Godfather, they're amazing. But like it's one big story that they just choose to break up in time, right?
I
Right?
I
It's a
feel
big
like
family.
Godfather Part 3 is very different from the first two. But
Okay, I actually haven't seen
But
it.
here's the
I've only
thing.
seen part 1 and 2. So
I
can
actually
talk.
really, I'm one of the rare people who really like Godfather Part 3.
Oh.
But I just like 90s movies. I'm just
That's
you know,
okay. I
for-
feel like, you know what, based off of, like, I think I want to see for Coppola's Redux. I think that would be, like, the best way to see it, but whatever. That's where I'm
All right, can we stray off for a split
Okay,
second?
yeah,
Have you read anything about Megalopolis, or whatever the fuck it's called?
No, is that his?
Francis Ford Coppola's new movie.
Oh, yeah, no, I've heard nothing.
Oh, he's like premiering it at Cannes, and it's like not going well apparently. But he like self-financed it. He like sold his winery for like $100 million so he can self-finance this movie.
That sounds
it
like...
sounds bonkers.
Yeah.
It's
it
about
sounds-
like so he was gonna make it. He's been trying to make it since like the 80s, and he almost got it made in like the early 2000s, and then 9/11 happened, so he couldn't. What the movie's about is a big city like New York gets like destroyed by terrorists. So it's like, oh, we can't make this movie anymore.
Yeah, that's kind of touchy.
But so it's destroyed, and what it's about is they bring in this architect to like rebuild it. So this it's like he wants to build into like this utopian society. It's like takes place in the future. So he wants to make it like a utopia, but the other like the other people who run the city want it to go back to the way it was, because like they're like very much like organized crime, very much like they have their hand in everything. And it's like there's a girl in the middle who's like her father is like the old ways and her boyfriend or husband is like the new ways, and it's like her having to balance like which one. I don't know. It sounds fucking weird.
Yeah.
It
I'm
sounds
on
super
board.
interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. The cast is amazing though. It's got like Adam Driver. Sorry, you're gonna say
Does he want to build the utopia like in that building?
in the city. So the whole
Oh,
city.
the whole
is
city. Okay,
the
because I
whole
was
city
thinking
is
like High
designated.
Rise. If you've ever seen that
Yeah,
one,
yeah, yeah.
I thought it was going to be like that.
So Adam Driver plays the main character. The girl who plays Ramsey, she was in from like Fast and Furious movies. She was in like Game of Thrones. She was like Khaleesi's right hand. I'm trying to remember her name.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
I never watched Game of Thrones.
Okay. Her name's like Natalie Emmanuel. I want to say her name is. And then it was Forrest Whitaker, and then it got switched to Giancarlo Esposito, is the father. So it's like the three of them. The cast is crazy, like Jon Voight, Shia LaBeouf, like
Yeah, okay.
insane.
You said it's
but
not going well though. Like, is it?
everybody just keeps saying it's bonkers. The movie's just bonkers. But anyway, sorry, we're fucking
okay.
straying off.
Yeah,
but
sure.
go back. To
I don't know what you were saying. Oh, just I think okay. Well, the idea of breaking it up. I think the movie is so vast that it's probably a good idea to break it up, and I think that way you get to kind of explore the characters and invest a little bit more in them. Kind of something that the David Lynch movie does is it trucks, dude. Like you don't get time to be with anyone because they got more things to either tell you expositionally through like thoughts or like the words or like whatever. Like it's doing a lot quickly, and it's like whoa, that's like.
They're
So
covering a lot of ground in a 2-hour
yes.
period, so
Right.
it's very true.
So and that's kind of fascinating too. Is like there's different approaches to the story where they're like it's got to be 14 hours, or Lynch is like nope, I got it, I'll do it in 2 or whatever, however long it had to be or whatever. Like I don't know how long it ended up, but like,
I think it's like 2:16.
Yeah, okay, right. So it's like it's shaved, dude. Like 2:16, like. But
I don't know how much we can say about all the other movies yet. That's why I'm so.
All right, you know what? Okay, so we're just gonna do a quick ranking, literally. So. Do we add the documentary in there?
I do.
Let's do it. Let's do the documentary.
Man.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
I fell asleep.
Okay. Trust me.
Bottom.
So I will say this. Kind of what you were saying before about them like flipping through the book.
Yeah.
When watching it, there's like a scene where it actually kind of animates his opening drawings.
Yeah.
And I did think like, wow, I would actually sit and watch a movie of just this.
Yeah.
If they had voice actors doing the characters and stuff.
Absolutely.
So not necessarily what you said, Jodorowsky, like doing the voices. I don't want that.
Oh,
but like
whatever.
I would watch his drawings animated a little with
I agree with you.
people doing the voices for them. Like watching a comic book.
Yeah. He does say later in the movie, he's like, yeah, make it a cartoon, he says. Like, and like, dude, I'm like, why hasn't anyone yet? Why hasn't someone AI'd it? Even be like AI Jodorowsky's Dune book, boom, make it a 14-hour like video, or I don't know if they could do that yet, but I don't know. Like,
I guess it depends where the copies of that book are, right? Didn't he say there's only like
Apparently
2
there's only
copies
2.
right now,
There's only 2
and it's
apparently.
probably not all scanned online for people to look at yet.
I know. It does sound cool, though. I would love to watch that cartoon as well. And I've seen other things that are like that. They did The Watchmen. But it was like right after the movie came out. Yeah. They did like a version just like that. It was very cool. I remember 28 Days Later, they did like an alternate ending. And it was like, and the alternate ending starts from the halfway point. And they did the entire back half of the movie like that.
Oh, wow.
Where they showed storyboards and they had people doing voices and stuff. And I'm like, and I actually kind of weirdly, I like the original ending, but the other ending's fucking crazy.
I don't know how cool. What's the alternate?
It's like, what if they never met the soldiers?
Oh.
So starting from there. So I don't know if you.
What's his face freaks out and they have to get him.
Seen 20 Days Later?
It's been a while.
Okay, so Frank gets infected.
Yeah.
The soldiers come and kill him, and then they take him to their compound, and then the like back half of the movie happens. Yeah. Well, what if the soldiers never show up? So they knock Frank out. He's infected, but they're like, we don't want to kill him because he's our friend. So they're like, they're just kind of trucking around, and they end up at this like hospital to like try to save him. And there's a guy that's living in the bunk, like he's like bunkered out in the basement, and he's like, I actually have a cure to the virus. And he's like, well, what is it? And it's like, the cure is a blood transfusion. If you could remove the blood and replace it with more blood, theoretically, it should save him. But then it cuts for a second, and this is when the director comes in. He's like, this is where the problem is with this ending is if one drip can infect you, unless you're bleaching the veins, it's literally impossible to do this. Yeah. But this was the idea we had initially. And then, like,
I'm glad they cut it. Yeah. And like soldier intervention's like way cooler. It also elevates it. Sometimes like in a movie, you kind of need a new character added to kind of further the story. Like our characters can only get so far.
I agree.
And then like that, I don't know. I like how it ended. Like I like how they went.
Mm-hmm. And it's
interesting though.
Here's the thing. I actually think so. No, I want to say Dawn of the Dead came out after, right? The remake.
That was 2004.
2004.
Right?
So 2001 was when 28 Days Later came out.
Wow. Okay.
I actually think 28 Days Later is a really cool version of Day of the Dead. I don't know if you've ever seen Day of the Dead.
I haven't.
So it's like it's a kind of the same idea with like soldiers, but like I don't know. So I'm like, it's kind of cool. We got a good Day of the Dead. We got a good Dawn of the Dead. But anyway, but you're right. I could totally watch a version of that of Jodorowsky's Dune with storyboards.
I think he's kind of funny, so I want him animated and like.
I love his accent.
I get it also too. Yeah, maybe minus him too, and like make something like a half decent like animation would be really cool based on his old drawings too, or like whoever was like the fact to in the documentary, some of the painted ships or whatever, like leaking that one that Chris Foss did, that like camouflage half moon thing, leaking the spice that's all blue or whatever. I'm like, man, that's like, dude, that's not 2001: Space Odyssey. That's not Star Wars. That's its own thing. That's very unique looking, and that made me really excited. So I don't know. Okay, we were ranking them. We kind of got off. Yeah.
I was just gonna say some of the concept art that we could see in that documentary of what certain characters would look like kind of made me lose a bit of hope in his movie, though.
No.
But there was like crazy outfits on them, and like there was like I don't know, like
okay.
But it's
can I spoil the documentary for you a little
like
bit?
70s though.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it.
So all the concept art they show you from the movie, and you're like, this is goofy. That's wow. Look at no way. It's like they show you movies later, like He-Man Masters of the Universe, like what's his face is wearing the Emperor's like crown thing, and like there's so many, like the De Laurentiis people too. They took that movie and they pieced it out to other different movies, and there's like they took all the concepts from that book and they put it in other movies, all the art and stuff. They've infused it, so you're like, oh, I don't know if this would work. They're like, no, we're running with it, dude. We're putting it in He-Man. We're doing this and that. We're doing like.
I've never seen He-Man, so is this a normal outfit, or is this one people would make fun of?
Well,
in He-Man.
No, it works with He-Man.
Actually, here's the thing: it looks good in He-Man, but like He-Man's not a well-made movie. Like it's not the whatever Jodorowsky got onto the screen. Like that's amazing, dude. But like it's other stuff. You're like, oh, this movie doesn't. But it's whatever. I don't know. Also, too, one thing I'm just gonna throw out there: Leto. Like they go through like the scene of Leto's like torture or whatever, dude. I don't think like here's the thing: like you like live. I like. Okay, part of the reason like I'm glad you're here is like you like very little of the sci-fi movies that I like to watch, but Dune somehow like you're on board, and like it wasn't even just like one time. Like we've watched part one like a couple of times, and you're like you're into it, and
I've
that's
watched
really
it without you too.
That's really important.
My wife watched it once, fell asleep. She's like, I will never watch that movie again. I'm like, you want to go see Dune Part 2? She's like, God no.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So maybe you're an exception, but like I'm telling you, Leto gets like. He gets severed.
He gets it terrible. Like, so in Jodorowsky's
You're talking about
version,
Jodorowsky's thing, right?
Yeah. He, like, gets his arms and legs cut off.
And then his head.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I mean, I do okay with slasher films.
Okay, fine. I don't know. I'm feeling
you
like...
don't do okay with slasher films.
No, I don't. Well, but, like, here's the thing. I don't know if you would have liked this. Like, whatever he was going to make, I don't know if you would have liked it the same way you liked the other.
No, because what I like about it's the love story, which is part of my problem with Lynch's, is Shawnee's like just there. She doesn't do anything.
She's a mannequin.
Yeah, she's like arm candy. I don't know. I like that actress, but like I agree.
Sean,
she's like, she's not doing a lot for me. But again, right? It's because trucking, dude. Like it's got no time for people, but they're there and they're important. But
all right, let's rank them.
Okay,
sorry, Olivia first.
Are we separating part 1 and part 2?
Yes.
Yeah, they're
okay. So
different
part 2 is number 1 for me then.
Really interesting. Okay.
And
go ahead.
Do I keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess it would go from newest to oldest. So I like part 2, and then I like part 1, and then Lynch.
Okay.
And then the documentary.
Cool.
Yeah. So probably the documentary. Actually, I would probably recommend the documentary to people before I would actually recommend them. Actually, the documentary depends on the person, but I think I had the most fun watching the documentary.
Definitely.
It's also an hour and a half, so it's like
easy.
It's a nice breezy.
It was a super easy watch,
right? So I say documentary, part 2, part 1. Couple spaces, Lynch.
Oh,
so
this
there's
is
just
where
a couple of gaps. There's other movies that were on like the cheap like whatever Tubi thing that say Dune or Dune Planet. I'm sure those are probably better, but I haven't seen them. And then
better than Lynch's.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like Lynch's Dune. I think there's some really cool sci-fi concepts I want to get into, like when we go into it, but I don't like it. And I understand why he doesn't like it, because certain versions of the movie, he puts a pseudonym under who directed it.
Alan
it's
Smithy?
Alan Smithy or whatever.
Really?
He's embarrassed of it, and he should be. Sorry.
I kind of liked it.
I don't think he should be embarrassed at all. So this is where we're going to start a fist fight. So, here's the thing. Jodorowsky's Dune, in my opinion, it's hard to even rank in there. It's just kind of like, I like it. I really like it. I think it's a great documentary. And I think it's a great documentary about creativity and like what could have been and shit like that. So I'm gonna throw it just at the top just because I really liked it. But
I like movies about movies that don't exist.
Me too.
Or just what if movies. Like, what if this was there and it changed how we like maybe like view movies, or maybe our opinions would be skewed because of it or whatever. Love that stuff. Eat it up.
It's true.
So what if universe?
And it's funny because you said like, oh well, even though we didn't have Star Wars, we had 2001: Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
But I'm like, but 2001: A Space Odyssey is about a bunch of dudes with swords in space. Like, so like that's like which Dune was, and like Star Wars is also. So it's like I think I don't know if there would have been a Star Wars, and I think it's an interesting concept. That they're kind of, I don't know, they're trying to get across.
It's very possible. Like, I don't know, man. Yeah.
But if I'm gonna rank them, I really like the first Dune, just Dune Part 1, and then I'm going Lynch, and then I'm going Dune Part 2.
What?
I'm gonna be honest, I was not a fan of Part 2.
It's the love story.
Yeah, and
that's why I like
here's
it.
Here's the thing, though, I'm a soft. Yeah, I love stories. I love, but like. I don't know. There's something about the movie that didn't hit me the same way the first one did.
Oh, fair. I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
I agree. Actually, I feel like they're very different, and I kind of compare the first one is like an A24 space movie.
Yeah.
And then the next one is like the blockbuster epic. Like they're very different. There's certain things, even details that were in the second movie. I'm like, wait a second. Like those Harkonnen spice salt shaker things in the first movie, you'd never get a look at their spider legs. But in the second movie, there's like a big scene like with the spider legs that help keep like our heroes safe. I'm like, yo, is that the same thing? Like did they not have money for the spider legs in the first movie or whatever? There feels like there's like almost like a mystical like mystery on the first one that the second one it's worn off, and you have like there's more exposed bits and more moving pieces that you get to watch and see or whatever. I don't know.
That's a great way to put it, actually.
Yeah.
I didn't really think about it like that, but it's true. It's like, I feel like there's a lot of like lore and backstory that they're alluding to in the first one.
Yeah.
That they're like almost like just like teasing you.
Yeah.
And I like that. It adds a lot of detail to the first one. And then the second one, when they're like, oh no, this is the explanation for everything. I'm like, oh, okay, I liked it better when it was just kind of teasing me.
Here's the thing. Okay, comparing Infinity War to Endgame, it's similar. I love Infinity War more than Endgame.
I actually agree with you.
Right, and like this, like it. Here's the thing. I think Dune Part 1 and Part 2 are elevated. They're way above those movies. But there's like I understand the love for the Part 1 over the finality or the expectation or the setup that Part 1 did for Part 2. Like what Part 2 has to kind of cash in on what's Part 1 set up. I don't know. So sometimes the setup's better than the payoff.
For sure.
Like, right, okay.
Just imagine at the end of Endgame, though, Thanos didn't die, and it was just like, he just jumps on a spaceship and goes out, and the Avengers are like, all right, we have to jump in a spaceship and go. And then they're like, Avengers Part 3 coming soon. Wouldn't that fucking piss you off?
Yes, because I think whatever they had to say with Infinity War and Endgame could have been said in one movie. My personal, I'm honest, dude. Like he should have just showed up already, and like that's like or like whatever. Fine.
That's my problem with Dune Part 2.
Okay, fair. But like we know there's going to be another Avengers movie.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. We know there's going to be another several bad movies that come later, like right or whatever. So it's like I don't know, like it's a franchise. And I'm expecting the story to give me only so much and then keep me like ready for the next little bit that they're going to break off. And if you do it good, well, then I'm there for the next piece that you break off, like even sooner, right? Sure. And I don't know. So like, yeah, you know what? I would have been bummed out if they're like, oh, Thanos isn't dead. Haha, we got him. And I'm like, okay, well, they'll just go after him. Or like he'll team up with somebody else. Or maybe eventually they'll win him over and they have to fight Galactus. I don't know. Like it's like they could go any which way with it. I think people would have loved that because the amount of love for Thanos that people had. Oh, okay.
You're putting more thought into this, and I meant it as more of a joke.
Yeah, that's fine. Whatever. You got me on a tangent.
All right.
Stop it. We're
moving on to Lynch's Dune. David Lynch's Dune. So, what is it, 1986?
I thought 84.
84, you're probably right. So, throwing it out there, earlier you were talking about Hallmark movies. You're like super into Hallmark movies?
Yeah.
Do you know who Alicia Witt is?
No.
Oh, she's like an actress that's in a bunch of those movies. She was in like Urban Legend. She's in a lot of movies. That's the little girl
Oh yeah.
Oh, really?
I was like, that's Alicia. That threw me off. That was all.
Oh, that's good. Good for her. It's good to know she's acting. I worry about these child stars. Where are they? Or how are they going to eat when they're older?
Right?
Because,
Like it was one of those things where like I was just watching the credits and I'm like, holy shit! Like I didn't realize who it was until.
Yeah.
You know,
Actually, just watched the first episode of Fallout, and the dad in that is Kyle MacLachlan. So
No
it's like,
shit.
So it's like these characters, like again too, like okay, Lynch's ensemble is I actually think very Lynch. Kyle MacLachlan as his like Johnny Depp, if you will, like Tim Bird's got right. So it's like that's like you're me in this movie and this movie, right? So that's like. I like who they cast in a lot of it. I even like Patrick Stewart. Like I like him. Like that's a good casting. There's a lot of good actors in it.
I do not like Kyle MacLachlan.
What?
As I like him as an actor.
Oh yeah.
I don't like him as Paul Atreides.
No.
I think he's terrible. He's got this like this is probably the most negative thing I'll say about this movie. He's got this like I'm a teenager.
He's not,
way about him, and I'm like, dude, you're like 35. Like, what's going on here? Like, why are you eating Cheerios at the breakfast table?
But that's an era thing.
And that's a good point. And it is following the book, and that's, so you're right. This was an era where like you can have a 40-year-old Peter Parker that's still in high school. Like, I get it. It's just like, I don't know. Whereas I do think Timothée Chalamet, is that, did I butcher that? I feel like I butchered that.
Whatever. He's not here.
I think it's Chalamet.
Chalamet.
I think.
Chalamet. I do feel like he was a little bit of a better choice, but I don't know who else you would get though. That's the thing. I don't know.
You could have got anybody. I think that's the thing. He needs to be the leading man, and I think that's what his idea. What I'm sure that's what Lynch was thinking is. Yeah. I need a leading man. I need somebody who looks handsome or who looks you can get behind. Right.
One thing I could actually say about Jodorowsky, whatever his name is.
Jodorowsky.
One thing I can say about him is I actually love the idea of a nobody playing that role.
Yeah.
It actually would work.
Makes sense.
Because it's a very much a movie or a story that has a lot of supporting characters. Fill those up with the biggest actors you can.
Right.
But then you get Paul Atreides as like the nobody. That works for me.
Yeah.
So, and I love Patrick Stewart as Gurney.
Yeah.
I think he's fantastic.
He's really
actually.
good. Yeah.
Even the guy who plays the Baron. Big fan.
Yeah, he's doing creepy stuff. Like he's creepy. I don't like him. Here's the thing. I don't like the way he moves. I understand he's supposed to like defy gravity or whatever, and I compared him to like a balloon, but he's more like, I don't know, like a balloon that's like being let out of air a little bit. He's just like I can see he's on wires. I don't know, and I don't like it.
80s.
Yeah, I get it. I get it, man. Like I don't know how you do it. Like you'd have to be on wires, but like
I feel like he doesn't move much different than the guy in the new movies does.
Don't even.
It's true.
You said that to me when I was watching the Lynch one a few nights ago. About how he's like, he moves like a balloon, and then I watched part one again.
He doesn't really do much
and I'm like, he kind of looked exactly the same in how he moved,
bro. Like, but okay, fair. So the
thank you.
No, I agree with you 100%.
Like he's like kicking his feet and stuff, like or whatever. But like the other Baron dude, like he's controlled. Like you hear that like bone cracking noise, and then like his spine lights up, and then he like hovers.
Cool.
It's not a okay. Like fine, he like lifted like a balloon would, going up in the air. But it's like he's menacing, dude. His robe like hangs down, makes him look like taller and like more imposing. He's Darth Vader. I got it right away without saying it. He's a Vader like type. He's like humanoid. He's altered. Right?
I do think he's a little bumbling. I do think they kind of make the Harkonnens a little more bumbling in this, like they're a little more not jokey, but they're just like over the top. I don't know. But there is a moment or two in the Lynch one where I'm like, oh no, the Baron is kind of menacing. Like there's something about him where I'm like, oh shit, like he's actually kind of scary. But
yeah, he is.
He is creepier in the new one.
Oh, you think? Yeah.
In the new one.
Oh.
Like creepy, like evil. Like I'm scared of him. The other guy, I guess I'd be scared of him too, but I'm kind of more grossed out by him.
Yeah.
Fair. Yeah. I agree. He's gross, and that's part of his menace. And it's not that the other guy isn't gross either. Like the oil baths and stuff are like, ew. Like what is that, right? But like it's different.
Just has stuff shoot out on his face from the ceiling.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
That was a little weird. I was like, what's even happening?
Like a little bit of oil, and it looks like motor oil too. It's not like right? You're like, oh, Lynch. You understood like what the word meant, but I feel like there was other ways you could have. Whatever, dude. That's okay. Yeah.
So I enjoyed the Lynch movie because it helped explain some things that I didn't understand from the newer movies.
Yeah.
But I don't think that I would have been able to follow a lot of the Lynch movie without the newer ones either. Like I almost need both
Oh, I see what you're saying. So it's like, okay, because you are right. The Lynch one does truck. It like as soon as it starts, it's getting to the end of that fucking book, and it don't matter who's jumping on board or jumping off. You know what I mean?
But also at the same time, the opening monologue of that girl, she's like fading in and out, like the princess or whatever.
Oh, I almost forgot.
I forgot one thing. Let me fade back into existence here. Okay, whoa, wait a second. Okay, this movie's got to go at a certain pace. Maybe, I forgot one thing could be cut.
Well,
yeah,
it's
you're
true.
right. How about keep her on the screen the whole time until she's done talking? Like, I don't know. Like, okay, like, dude, just certain choices are like, no, immediately no.
Yeah.
Right. No.
I do like it. So every chapter does, if not every chapter, most chapters do start with, like, I'm trying to think.
Rulin.
Is that her name? Yeah. Her narrating the first. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. The movie starts with that. Part 2 does the same thing where it opens with her doing the same thing.
Right.
So I kind of liked how it started with that. Another problem I will say I did have. I hate the fact that everybody's narrating. What's that about? Like it's supposed to be their thoughts, their thought process. But I'm just like, what the?
So I was actually okay with that.
It was,
and I know it's probably a really unpopular opinion for me to say I liked having the inner monologues of everybody, but I felt I got to know people's motivations and just more about their character in a faster way and in a very in your face way. Because like this movie, like if you want to say like the Lynch one, it doesn't have time to show me, so it has to tell me.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm kind of okay with a tell, don't show sometimes.
Hey. No, I agree with you.
Sometimes.
Go ahead, Derrick.
Well, I think that's it too. You're right. It is doing that. And as much as I'm normally against that, I'm always about show me, don't tell me, don't tell me, don't tell me. I think when I'm watching it, I'm like, man, this is like a comic book. Because like comic books have thought bubbles.
Yeah.
To kind of help with character motivation. And as much as I don't like reading older comic books that are packed full of like thought bubbles because they got paid by the word or whatever, right? Like, so they're just adding extra exposition to kind of, pad that paycheck, whatever. I love it. I felt that in this and I was actually okay with that. I was okay with it. Like, it's like, you know what? It does. And plus, like, I like, especially for Paul, like, who is like psychic or is like, he's learned the weirding way. Like, okay, well, whatever. Like, maybe he's psychically connecting to me, the audience viewer, like or whatever, as like I'm watching this thing. So, I was actually okay with that.
I'm gonna be honest. The only time it actually stuck out for me, where I'm like, this is too weird. So he does it. Paul does it. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And then Lady Jessica does it, and I'm like, okay, all right, whatever. And then Doctor, is it Yue? Yue. I'm like, all right, this is what the fuck are we doing here?
Well, whatever. He might be psychic too. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, why are we into his thoughts? This doesn't make any sense.
You get everybody's thoughts.
That's it. It's like, we don't give a fuck. We don't discriminate here. We're fucking, everybody's thinking. We're recording it all. But, I don't know.
Yeah.
We don't get Chani's thoughts, though.
No. Well, she's not, of course.
It's because she's not thinking. She's literally a mannequin. She's just literally standing there. Like, even when she speaks, it's like, oh, that was a bad choice.
Girl.
Don't speak. Just a cardboard cutout.
Can we talk about some of the overacting though? Like some of the
so that's one of actually my favorite scenes in the movie.
Cut it out.
Oh, the falling.
When Leto dies and Jessica consents it, and she goes like, no, and she does this crazy thing where she like throws her arms like around her head. She like circles them.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's so different than the choice they made in the Denis Villeneuve one, because she just quietly sobs to herself in the newer one. And just, if you want to talk about the bad overacting, that specific scene, I actually rewound it and I rewatched it a couple times because
it's that good.
I find
to laugh at it?
Like, yes, to laugh at it, but that's entertaining.
Okay.
So that's why I say it depends on the person, which one I'm going to recommend to people.
It's true. Even him falling off the cliff, we were kind of laughing about that earlier.
Yeah.
Like he falls. It is like a comedy.
Died.
He falls like a lot. He falls for like 3 minutes straight. It's just like the dunk, like him free falling for like 30 seconds
on the green screen.
What is going on right now? This is comically.
It's bad.
But I do like that the Lynch one is just like from start to finish. There's an end. It wraps up very quickly, and it's lacking a lot, but it still at least has an end that is like an end. I don't want to. I'm not looking at that thinking, oh man, I wonder what's next.
It's certainly a little bit like, okay, mic droppy.
Now, what I would say I don't like, if you want to compare it to the newer ones. So we talked about how Irulin is doing the opening credit. She doesn't matter in this movie.
She really doesn't.
Yeah.
Like in part 2, she opens it like you were saying, but she's also really important as that movie's coming to a conclusion.
Yeah.
And even throughout it, like we just learn more about who she is.
She's more important in the next movie.
Yeah, like she becomes more and more important, right? But in Lynch's, it's just like, I'm just here.
She's just
and why? Like, because I thought about it. Well, why does she know this story? Well, she knows it because she's married to Paul, but we don't know that in the Lynch movie because it just ends and she's just kind of in the room.
It's a good point. I actually don't really. Okay. Yeah, it's true. No. She is kind of pointless. What do you think of right off the bat? The Emperor's pissed. He wants to kill Leo. What do you think of that? Because it's in the Denis Villeneuve one. It's kind of hinted at.
Yeah.
But it's not outright said.
No.
And even in the book's kind of the same way.
Yeah.
But it's
I like that because it's more from the perspective of the family, like the royal family. Like you're getting it as Paul's getting the information. He's like, "What? I got to dress up tonight? What? Like, what's going on?"
Yeah.
Like, I love it. But like, oh, we're in the Emperor's room. He's talking to the pickle in the jar or whatever that's like spitting out the smoke or whatever. Like, what's happening? What's happening? Who are these people?
That's the most David Lynch thing in the whole movie.
Yeah.
If you ask me, like that's like you can't escape. That's
like
a fucking David Lynch thing.
That's the Eraserhead baby girl grown up. Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Yeah.
You were talking about, right?
Yeah.
The thing in the tank.
The pickle.
Yeah. Isn't that like his future son, like mixed with a worm god thing?
I don't know. Maybe that's what that is. Like, if it is, like, it doesn't look very like worm gaudy. Like, to me, it looks like a pickle in a jar, like that wheeled itself in there, like whatever. No, I don't like it.
It is a character from the book.
Okay,
but it's not a character from the first book.
Oh.
It's a character from a later book.
Oh, so it is.
It's like, why the fuck would he?
Is that Paul's son?
No. They're called the Navigators. So they're supposed to be human beings.
Yeah, I get that.
Which is why I was thinking, like, when his, like, because I looked it up too and I saw that what you're saying about it's a human. So I'm like, why did he make it a worm thing? And then I thought maybe he was trying to blend multiple characters together.
Maybe. I don't know what his thought process was, but so the Navigators, they like work alongside the Emperor and they're in charge of space travel. That's like their thing is like they have a monopoly on space travel and like banking and shit. So they work alongside the Emperor because he's like the most powerful person.
Is he though?
But he is at this point. But that's the thing. But that's why the Navigator. Maybe they are in the first book. Now that I'm thinking about it. Okay, because once Paul beats the Emperor at the end, the Navigators are the ones that jump ship and they're like, "Hey, Paul, what's up, bro? Like we're friends now, right?" And like that's how Paul becomes super powerful.
I see.
So like. And they dump the Emperor, and that's how he loses all his powers. Because they literally have a monopoly on anything important. Like, and what it is they're the ones that need the spice. So that's why the Emperor's so important to him is to keep them happy.
Yeah, I see.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I like that they're omitted from the
Yeah.
movie.
Well, that's the thing. Because they're not, I'm pretty sure they're not in the first book. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I was just say it just explains in the Lynch one why that thing, there's like, I don't know, almost a minute long of it just kind of floating there when they're about to travel to Arrakis.
So weird, right?
And I'm like, why is this thing here helping them travel right now? But what you just said kind of explains that.
And the only reason why I even know is because I had to look it up. Because I'm like, what the fuck is this
Yeah.
thing? Why is this thing in this movie right now?
I think you looked up a little further than I did because I just got that they were humanoid and that they control the universe.
Yeah, so in the book they're described as like the creature from the Black Lagoon. They're humans, but they've ingested so much spice that they've mutated.
That's what it's turned into. Yeah.
But
because
Lynch was like, mutated? Oh, I got this.
Yeah, right.
This is my bread and butter.
I know what to do. But like even the fact that it's got like a human arm still, like
Yeah.
it's floating in that thing. I'm like, okay, it's probably human at some point. Oh, it's probably human at some point, like most things are. Sorry, I just bumped the mic. It's okay.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I got more to say. That's good. But
Let's go. No, let's
okay.
do it. Let's do it.
Okay. One thing I think is maybe only the David Lynch thing. They refer to like I feel like his witch powers is like the weirding way or
Yeah,
like
yeah.
whatever. And like I like the fact that the witches can like kind of like control people or like control people with their mind. But the fact that he's able to also weaponize the voice into like a gun.
Very cool.
Is a cool okay, shake your head, no, fine, but is actually a very cool like way to take technology and like supernatural like and combining them together to make like a super weapon. I'm on board with that. Like I don't care if that's not in the book. I'm glad it's not in the Denis Villeneuve one, but
Yeah.
like I'm okay with that in this movie. And if that's a Lynch thing or whoever had that idea, I want to see a movie like explore that more, like where you weaponize like supernatural, but like that, all that stuff. Love that, but
That didn't make any sense.
it also should have been in a different movie. I like that concept, but like here's the thing with Dune, right? Like Dune is a whole whack of sci-fi concepts.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like here's the buffet. It's everything. Take what you will. And Dune, like Dune, also inspires people to do their own thing, like Lynch did. If that's it, so it's like I'm on board with that. I know it's not good. I know, like the whole movie's like really not my favorite. So it's like,
well, what they had in this first movie was those sand compactor guns.
Oh,
and I think that just makes way more sense. Like their whole thing they keep saying is you have to harness the power of the desert, and I don't know, just the gun thing with the voice didn't make any sense to me. That was silly.
My name is a killing world.
And even that when the Fremen people took in him and his mom, they were like, "Oh, you're gonna teach us all the weirding way now, and like that's how you're gonna be in with us." Can she teach it to anyone? Like he's had most of his life, his upbringing was to become kind of familiar with those Bene Gesserit ways, and like he could still had a little bit of trouble like using the power. So I kind of didn't buy it that they could all learn it.
It's weird.
It's the
I'm
weird
into
way.
it.
Yeah,
it's weird. I'm into it.
This is the way. Yeah, I liked it. But again, I'm also like I don't like the movie as a whole. I think it's a poor adaptation. So it's like
Okay. I'll speak a little more about why I like the movie, because I actually think it's a pretty decent adaptation. If you're gonna adapt a novel that's this like rich with like lore and thick, like you're right, it's trucking, but it's like, I mean, there's really nothing that's important. Like there's nothing that's important about Denis Villeneuve, both of those movies, that Lynch didn't include. Like what really happens in the Villeneuve movies that's different than the Lynch ones? That's important, really, though. Like, the only thing I can think of is, like, the nuclear warhead stuff. But, like, even that, I'm like, they make up some voice shit. I'm cool with it, whatever. But, like, even going back to, there is a lot of Jodorowsky, whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah, whatever.
I can't even say it now.
Jodorowsky.
Alejandro Jodorowsky.
Watching the Lynch one, I do see a lot of influence from that, where it's like every planet has their own color palette, has their own oh, it looks different. And we were kind of watching a scene from it earlier, and you were like, could you pack more into this fucking scene? Like, so you were saying it when Buddy's getting like his like boils.
Yeah, he's getting him lance or whatever. Yeah,
I was thinking about it in the opening scene with the Emperor and the slug thing, the tank. But I'm like, there's a dude walking around with like a bunch of Pomeranians. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, all right, what do we got? What else? All right. Like, let's get some ferrets in that cage over there.
Actually, they indicate royalty.
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah. And the Pomeranians, it was like a status thing. I understood why he thought that was okay to include in that movie. But like, again, like how much money we spent on this movie? Like you couldn't have spent a little bit more on the special effects, but you had to get how many Pomeranians? Like cut those Pomeranians, work on the effects a little bit. It's 1984, I get it, but like some of those look worse than 2001. Like we're talking the ships flying through space, or like the matte paintings that are kind of just hovering there or whatever. That a lot of those special effects don't look good. I do think the
special effects are weirdly intentional. I do think they're supposed to look like, I don't know. But we were talking about the matte paintings earlier. Some of the matte paintings look fucking awesome.
Yeah, fair. And it's inconsistent. Throughout the movie, there's some good shots. I'm like, man, that's cool. Even like some of the shots later when they're all. Here's the thing too. I love Bob Ringwood. Did a great job on Batman. He brings it to this too. Like the Fremen suits, they all look very similar to the Denis. Like there's not much that they change. I feel like from what the Fremen look is. That's a really cool design. So when they're all standing there and they're like black outfits at the end,
with like the red on top,
yeah,
they look like they're like out of rollerball. Like
I'm on board, man. Like there's a lot on the screen here that I'm really into. Like I love all that. Like that was really good. I don't remember what my point was, but costume design's top notch. I love that Toto did the music. Like it's not Pink Floyd, but like
it's fucking awesome.
They were like, that concept of bringing a rock group in to do like the score, and Brian Eno too to fill in, right, or whatever. Like they were on the same track that way, which I thought was really good too.
So what you were saying before about things that are in the Denis Villeneuve ones that aren't in the Lynch one, and like nothing important is missing. I think what's really important is character development and actually caring about the characters.
It is true.
And that is definitely missing from the Lynch one.
That is 100%. The problem is there's a lot of characters in this story. They should have amalgamated some characters. They should have, you know what I mean? Does stuff like
Right.
that.
So-
But, and that's, you are right. That's really the only thing is like they had time to develop characters, backstory, shit like that. In relationships. I actually do like the fact that Duncan Idaho is like really good friends with Paul in the new ones. Because I don't think they have a scene together in the Lynch one, do they?
They do. I think they do have a scene.
Other than his death scene.
No, he's like, hey, I'm shipping off or whatever. I'm going to go or whatever. But I'm like, dude, like, I don't feel anything between them. I'm like, who's this guy? Oh, okay, he's gone again? Whatever. Right? It's like, and Momoa is maybe not a good actor, but I
think
still.
Momoa's a great actor.
No, he's not. And Denis Villeneuve, like, watch that scene where he flies in on the ship again, part 1. I don't know, we missed it maybe, but like, he on purpose is hiding Momoa's face a lot of the time because he's a bad actor and he's phoning in his lines. But I get it. He's like the older brother, father figure, look up to guy that's not your dad but is really cool. Like they encapsulated that perfectly. He's cool like for that role. I think it's great. And that's something too you kind of need as a like growing up, you look to other role models that aren't your parents. Sure. You want that, and I think that was really well captured with their reaction and like the what scenes they had together.
Okay.
Sorry.
One thing
we're getting off topic.
I will say about the Lynch one too, weirdly violent. Like
sometimes
a lot of blood and stuff. Where I'm like, like if you're making a hard sci-fi movie like this, I think it's very weird. It's not PG-13, is it? Is it R?
I don't remember.
It's got to be, right?
I don't know what it was. Yeah,
when Duncan Idaho gets shot in the face, it's like, whoa. Like, there's a lot of blood.
Like, okay, the producers were all like, okay, this is Star Wars for adults, right? Yeah. Like, that was like their thing, right? So it's like, I don't know if they were like going for the hard R, but I feel like even back then it would limit your box office success, right? But
yeah. Also, I don't care how terrible it looks. It was unintentionally amazing for me. The fucking suits. Like, the, bloop bloop, like bloop bloops on their arms and the force field suits.
Oh yeah,
amazing.
No,
that's also of its era though. No. I had a really hard time figuring out what was even happening in that fighting
it's
scene.
terrible, but it's so good at the same time.
No, it's not. But it's cool to see.
PG-13.
I can't believe this movie's PG-13.
Well, whatever. I don't know. It's not like they swore. Like I feel like swearing's big. Think the first PG-13, right? They made Indiana Jones drink blood.
That's a good
point. He's drinking blood in that movie that changes him into like an evil version. Like there's not that in this, so it's like they didn't say the F word too many times. I feel like you're okay.
That's a good point.
Right.
It's just violent. It's very violent, and like the pus and stuff. I'm like, it's just kind of grotesque for like a PG-13 movie. But whatever.
I don't know. That's okay. I feel like those are parts of the things that I hang on for. I'm like, oh wow, like that's gross and disgusting. Like I can't look away, right? Like
here's the thing, like. For anybody that says this isn't a David Lynch movie, it fucking totally is.
Oh,
like, it just feels like a David Lynch movie.
Yeah, and he said he felt like he sold out, and I get that. Like while he was making it, I think there was some conflict going on there. But like, you got to take wins still. Like if you said yes, you're gonna do it, you do it still. And like kudos for him for making it the way he did, because I think that was a huge undertaking, and like. There would have been a lot of things that probably shut me down a lot sooner. Like if I was like doing all that or whatever. So it's like, but I don't know. One thing too, I think part of what you said just a second ago, and what I like about the newer ones too, is the simplification of characters. Remove those pickles, those human pickles or whatever. Or like if you're gonna have one, fine or whatever. But the fact that the Bene Gesserit kind of seem to be operating behind the scenes while the Emperor is still in charge, kind of it makes more sense to me as a relationship, where if these pickles can kind of control everything and have a monopoly on anything, who is the Emperor then, if not just like their pawn to like move around?
100%.
And like what kind of symbiotic relationship, because they look like pickles, they need a human to be an emperor, right? So that's like they need a
they're not political. That's the thing. They stay out of politics.
But money's political. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It's like church and state almost. It's like one of those. It's like they control all the money and shit. It's like, and then so the emperor is elected. I'm assuming. I don't know how the politics work in this.
Yeah, I feel like the space politics of David Lynch's movie makes me not interested in it. Like I go, oh, this makes me want to tap out. I think I don't know. So
I kind of liked the Reverend Mother Bene Gesserit better in the Lynch one.
Well, that's fair. She's got a more distinct look for sure. Like the box hat or whatever is a thing, but like her bald head and the fact that Lady Jessica even later has like the bald head too or whatever. It's like a thing that it's like that's a way to show character growth just only physically. Like, oh yeah, she's a Bene Gesserit now or whatever. She's probably more into the weirding way or whatever. Like that's a win. Like as like a storytelling thing, that's great.
Well, okay, so the scene with the Gom Jabbar where he has to stick his hand in the box. In the Lynch one, I kind of actually do like how it keeps showing like the burning hand,
the bubbling hand,
because it's like, that's
cool.
like what he's feeling.
Yeah,
and they
absolutely.
do show a burning hand like ashed after in the Villeneuve one, but it's like it's after he's already taken the hand out or near the end of it or something.
Yeah. I want to say he's thinking about fire. He's like thinking about like a forest fires. It's kind of the same idea.
But I got it more clearly with the Lynch one that, his hand feels like the fire.
Yeah.
But I also liked that when he took it out, she's more like caring and explaining what just happened. And she even says like no woman ever had like that much pain in the test. And I'm like, that's kind of cool. She's testing him harder because if he's going to be like
because she wants him to fail,
a messiah
almost.
type character and he's able to like withstand a harder test than anyone else ever has. But I do also like in the newer one, they seem more like menacing.
Yeah.
All the Bene Gesserit people. Yeah. And if you go into like the second movie, like there's even more stuff going on where you learn like even like the Emperor's daughter and stuff. Like it's just like it's more, I kind of like what you were saying, like them being behind the scenes is explained more.
I do feel like we'll get to it with the second one, but I do feel like they're adding a lot of characters to support later stories.
You mean in the Lynch one?
No, in the Villeneuve one.
Oh, yes.
And I'm like, I don't like them. I don't know.
Yeah.
I like the leader. So I'm trying to remember her name.
The Reverend Mother.
Thank you. I was gonna say Queen Mother. I'm like, that's not right. The Reverend Mother. Yes, I like her as a character. Once you start introducing like Leah Seydoux as like a character and all these other ones, I'm like,
the one that makes the baby with the
correct, with Fade.
Yeah, Fade.
Yeah.
We're talking in the new one now?
Yeah.
Wait, are we off Lynch's one?
No, I know. We're kind of in a bit of a transition,
okay,
I guess.
Real
Hey, just
quick.
one thing.
Go ahead.
What you were saying about her hair, the mom's going bald, I found earlier in the movie, her hair actually really stood out to me as almost its own character. Like she's got like a crown almost made out of her hair.
Yeah.
And then in the desert, it's like big and it's wild and you see the sand all in her hair. And then later when she's the Reverend Mother Bene Gesserit, like she's got, I think it's quick. I almost didn't even notice it, but she's balding at the top again with like the fancy little hat they got. I just thought that was really cool how her hair was like
cool.
really
it's
a character in itself.
Yeah, it's to compensate the fact that they couldn't give her a proper story arc. They had to just do it all in appearances.
She couldn't act, so her hair did it for her.
No, she was overacting. She was giving it her all. That's it.
All right. Anything else you want to say about Lynch's? Anything else you like?
Toto, I like that. Oh, can we talk about the sandworms? Actually, this one thing too.
Like they look like giant penises. That's what we're going to talk about.
No, that's not what I wanted to say.
They look like giant penises every time. I saw it.
So Villeneuve one looks like a vagina, so we got both.
We went too far the other way. Yeah.
Okay, I think. Okay, say what you will about what it looks like. The design for the sandworm in Lynch's, I do like that it's got like more of like a petal, like the 3-prong, like lip opening. But every time it's on screen, it looks like a puppet. Like they didn't shoot it at the proper frame rate or something. Like they shot it at 24. They should have shot at high speed so it moves slower or something. They just, whoever was doing the model work, every time that worm's out there, it's a puppet. And
I thought
it looked fine to me.
Nice.
I had no
I think
issue
you're
with
just... All right, we're moving on. All right, Dune Part 1, Denis Villeneuve. What do you think?
I loved it, dude. When it came out, I watched it. I think I watched it at home, obviously, or I watched it at home, but I liked it enough. I kept rewatching it. Like it wasn't, when it came out, it didn't rank like really high for me that year. Like it was like top 10 for sure, but it was one that I would rewatch a lot. And rewatchability is important for me. If a movie's rewatchable, it means there's a lot that it's doing right for me.
100%. I actually had a similar reaction to it. Like I watched it the first time, loved it, but again, I don't even think it made my top 10 that year. It was like, it's a good movie.
It's a good year though too. I think there was a lot of good movies that year.
I was into it. It's good, but I have watched it at least 3 times since, and it's like, oh, this movie is really easy to watch, and it's very good actually.
Very pretty too, I think. That's
It is very pretty.
Not that the other Dune movies aren't pretty, but this one's very specific with what's beautiful and like what it's wanting to show you. Like it shows off like each planet, each style of like race, right, or whatever. Like very specific and very like clear to see. I don't know. I like it.
No, I agree with you, and I do like the idea that they split it up. Like the Fremen are all Spanish, like. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
People from Kaladin are all very like white, very pale, like
European.
I think that's very interesting.
Yeah.
All that Harkonnens, sorry, they're all bald. They're all like, I'm like, that's interesting. Like, I like that they split up the planets like that. It's like bloodlines and stuff. So,
yeah, actually, I think it's important too that they're very specific because you need to kind of be able to tell these people apart because later they're going to go to war, they're going to fight, and you need to like diversify, or otherwise they kind of like Lynch's movie. Like everybody's like I can't tell them apart except for the pickle, right? Like there's like everybody's a human, right? So it's like maybe obviously the Harkonnen are all gingers, but like they did it more in Villeneuve's thing where everybody was distinct and you got it kind of like right away.
What do you think of the first one?
Okay, so I had no interest in it when it first came out.
Okay.
And I know you were watching it quite often. Not quite often, but like you said,
on.
right? Like it was just on. And you were maybe halfway through or something. And I started watching it just a little in the room. I'm like, oh, I'm interested. So you actually restarted it that same night. So you watched like a good chunk twice.
Yeah.
But I was disappointed the first watch because Chani isn't there till like the very end.
She is in the end. Yeah, you're right.
She's just in like little like flash forward type things, like his visions throughout it. And I thought because of that, like, well, she must be important and she's probably gonna, be actually important in this movie.
Nope.
Not really understanding. I knew there was a part one, so I knew that there would be more, but I didn't know that part one meant half of a book, or I guess a third of a book.
It's half a book.
Half a book. Okay. I thought part one was book one.
Yeah,
so
here's the thing. When this was... Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. When this was released in theaters, did they call it Dune Part 1? I don't think they did. I think they just called it Dune.
Here's the thing. When I first watched it, the Part 1 dropped below. It said Dune Part 1, like in the opening title, with like the like that like lens flare thing that happens, like or whatever.
I don't remember that for some reason. I just remember it being called Dune, and then it wasn't until I watched it, I'm like, oh, it's just half a book. Great.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
I had only watched it once before going to see part 2. And I think that's why I like part 2 more. Okay. It's because it was what I was expecting. But that's why off the microphone, I think it was, I said maybe my rank changes a little once I rewatch them a few times. Because this one, part 1 was a letdown for me because I expected something that didn't happen in it.
For sure.
But I do like...
They were building towards something
a lot of what they've
happen.
built. Yeah. And I mean, I've still gone back and I've watched part 1 a few times. So it's not like... there's nothing there I liked, so I don't know.
Yeah, a lot happens in it still too. Like you think, oh well, when you talk about setup, well, like it's an incomplete movie. Well, it's kind of not in the same way that like Paul, I think, goes from being a very rich, like pampered, or like everything's at your fingertips, like one planet, to you're in the dirt, like on another planet with your ma, and like you guys are gonna have to survive. Right, like that's kind of like a scary, like drastic thing. Obviously, you would want some sort of conclusion normally or whatever, but like knowing that to kind of see these characters fall and go through all that is still rewarding. Like it's entertaining and it's rewarding, and you're following this fall of this like race of people, and you're kind of watching it almost like it's unfair the whole time while you're watching it, and it's like, wow, man, these people are getting like destroyed, like this whole thing, they're going to their death pretty much,
like out of jealousy too. It's not for really any real reason, right?
No.
Although they don't really say that in this movie, do they? It's more
didn't they say they're getting too powerful?
I think I think that like there's allusions to it and stuff like that. Even they're aware, one scene that's like very similar from Lynch's into this one was the fight with Gurney, like in his his training section, or whatever, right?
I recognize your footsteps.
Yeah, right. And like the fighting with the force fields and the slope, but like after, it's like you don't understand that we're going to like a place that was like, it was like these people are dangerous, dude. Like we're going into certain trouble. Like you need to stay sharp, and all that stuff is like, oh man, like they're going. Like this is dangerous for everybody, and like all those stakes are set so well. So like as they go, you're kind of like, man, how is this gonna play out? And I went in very blind. Like watching part one, having watched Lynch's like a couple of years ago, I totally forgot. Like so this was like brand new. Like it felt like brand new. Like what going in, and I was like, oh man. Yeah.
I like the mother-son relationship like in the first movie. So that's something that carries me through too. Like it's not romantic love, but it's like parental and like child love, right?
It's true.
Sure.
And I don't know, I just find in the second one the mom's more compromised.
Definitely. Yeah. That's
So,
true.
What do you mean? Sorry.
well, like because at that point she's like pretty early in the movie becomes the Reverend Mother.
Yeah, that's
And
a good
like
point.
she
That's a good point.
leaves and she's doing her own thing, and this one like she still is a Bene Gesserit, but you could see like the love for the son is there. But in the second one, she drinks that, I don't know what they call it, like the life
Yeah.
stuff,
The water
of
of
life.
Yeah.
And it's like she just changes after that, and it's like she doesn't even care about Paul as a person anymore, and it's just about him and his destiny.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that there's still like that love in the first one.
That's true. Sorry, I was going to say something that was kind of more about the second one, but I was going to say, like, I kind of like the idea that the whole Messiah thing, it's almost like there's half of the people that believe it and half the people that don't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, half of the people that are like, no, they've just been feeding us that for years. It's like a tool for controlling us. And there's other half like, no, it's like a real thing. I kind of dig that, like, is he an anti-hero or is he like a Messiah, like a religious figure? I thought that was kind of cool. But again, that's more the second one.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. So I'm of the opinion if you're gonna do like if you're gonna split a book in half like this, or if you're gonna do the Lord of the Rings, you know what I mean, have 3 different movies. I'm of the opinion that every single movie should have its own villain.
Yeah.
Okay. So like, and here's the thing about these 2 movies. This is the only time where I'm like, they kind of fucked it up a little bit. They made the villain in the first one the Beast Rabbin, and then the villain in the second one Fade. And I'm of the opinion that Fade should have been introduced in the first one.
Oh,
I don't know where you would have put him, because I do think this is pretty well paced. It's pretty well written, but I'm like, I just feel like the whole story is building up to this fist fight between Fade and Paul Atreides at the end.
Yeah.
And to introduce him halfway through doesn't make sense to me.
Fair. Okay. Also, I think, okay, for that character specifically, like Fade's character, I think his importance is fine for just the second movie, because he seems to me like a nega version of Paul. Like, they're like, okay, he's a contender. Like, this guy's actually pretty good. Like, I know that when they set him up as Paul's rising, there's a point where they're going to encounter each other. But in the first movie, and this is what I kind of like about the first movie and what the second movie mirrors, is Paul kind of isn't ready for Fade yet. So why don't even show him yet? Let Paul do what Paul has to do and kill his first guy. And the fact that the first movie ends on a sword fight, like a knife fight, is his first taste, like his first knife fight. And then the second movie, how it ends, like also on a knife fight, is actually, I think, a very, like, clearly, like, Paul has to hit his challenges. Fade is the boss level, bro. Like, you're not ready for the boss level yet. You haven't even done level 1 yet. You have to fight Jameis. You have to kill him first. So it's like, yes, Baron, what's his, Batista's character, right?
Yeah,
the brother of him
Rabbin.
or whatever. There's familiar relations. Like, even the fact, like, Leto was killed by the Baron, right? Like, there's things that Paul has to finish that were started, and Fade is just another obstacle later. He's like an expert level to put him in here now. Yeah, sure, you can set him up. Sure, what would he do? Lick a knife, cut somebody's throat then,
Yes,
or whatever.
please.
Yeah,
Something.
sure. But like, he's an obstacle more than a character, I guess, maybe, and that's kind of like maybe a failed thing on his part. Like, yeah, sure, set him up sooner, I guess.
I just
but
think,
like,
here's the thing. So, okay, so because I think they should have done what they did with the Lynch one. With the Lynch one, they just set them both up at the same time. The Beast Rabbin and Fade are just like the same. They're just brothers that are always hanging out with each other. You know what I mean? He puts the Beast Rabbin in charge of the spice mining from here on out, and then Fade's just like the guy you send in to do the dirty work, pretty much. And it's like, why not just set him up in the first one as, you know what I mean? Like, even in this battle scene, you know, you can have him kill Duncan Idaho. Boom.
Yeah.
Like, why not?
It's true.
Like,
it would have also. You're right, because it would have set up better for like when he gets his turn, like to kill him. Like this guy's clearly a baddie, but like I also feel like I got more reward out of, and maybe this is on purpose, but like the fact that the Baron kills his father, like Paul's father, and then like he's the one who's like, hi grandpa, or whatever, right? Spoiler or whatever.
I actually
like,
love
bro,
that.
like that's any better, like any better payoff than that is like you could have done anything to that guy. You killed Duncan Idaho or whatever. This bro, your grandfather killed your father, and now it's your turn to kill your, like, for your dad or whatever. Like, sorry, spoilers for the second movie, like, because it is kind of one big, but like that, like fate is like not as important as I think people wanted him to be, and like I get what he is. I still think he's the best version that we've got. Like, no offense to Sting or whatever, but like talking is cheap, dude. And if you're gonna kill him, kill him. Don't just talk about killing. I will kill him. Like whatever Austin Butler was doing, I thought was really good. Like yes, you're doing a Stellan Skarsgård impression. You're just doing that or whatever. But he was menacing. He did what he was meant to do, I thought.
I think the best part of him, because I actually don't really care about how the fight went or anything, it's just like that he was set up as being another possible Bene Gesserit pawn, because it's like, well, okay, like right now they're all trying to make it so that Paul's going to be the Kwisatz Haderach, or however you say it,
the Messiah,
Lisan al Gaib.
Yeah,
but they want Fade because they think he's going to be easier to control. And they find a way of doing that. And I think that's just really cool because now he even has like a child on the way.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
so it's like there's more to that story still. Like, because now that kid wants maybe revenge on like his dad being killed by Paul. I don't know how that's going to go, but that could be a thing, right?
Yeah, right. You're right.
So,
yeah. I don't know. I think, I say what you will that he wasn't in the first movie, bummer. I don't think he would have had a lot to do in the first movie.
I don't think he would have had a lot to do either. I think they should have introduced him. That's all I'm saying.
Fair.
And I do think, I know it's not a part of the book. I know he dies later, but kill the Beast Rabbin off in the first one as well. It's just
like with the fight with Gurney or something like that. That would have been cool.
He's the villain of the first, in my opinion, he's the villain of the first part. You know what I mean? If the Baron is the villain of like overall, overarching, you have the Beast in the first one, and you have Fade in the second one, but just introduce them both at the beginning. Yeah. That's all I'm saying.
I get it. I feel like that's minor, I think.
Oh, it's very minor. It's nitpicky. But I'm just saying that's the one thing I think the second one was brought down by.
So I think the first one, the villain was just being on Arrakis.
Arrakis was the villain?
Yeah, well, it's like because they had it like they were left in the desert to die, they overcame the desert at the end of the movie.
That's a good point. Okay. One thing I really like about the first one too, so they kind of allude to the fact, so in the scene with the box you were talking about earlier, the Reverend Mother asks, so when you dream, like, does it always come true? And he's like, no, not exactly. And what that's alluding to is this idea that he sees like all possible futures.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the future he's looking at. It's a possible future.
Right.
And like how it could turn out. And then it gets clearer as it gets closer because all of the possibilities are like
converging into that one point, which is what I liked about, sorry, let's cut you off. You say Chani's not an important character in the first movie. She kind of opens the movie with her dialogue, like her monologue, like her voiceover is the opening of the first movie.
Yeah.
And it's also kind of his first girl, right? Like the second girl is like, right? So his first girl is Chani. She gets to open it. So you know she's important. I think if she's voicing over, she's got to be important. And his visions of her, she's killing him, right? Like as an alternate.
Yeah.
And that was very important to me is because this girl is going to be important in his life. Either she's going to be his enemy or his lover, like that sort of thing. And this is... Sorry, it's making it a mystery. You don't know with what visions he's getting who she's going to be, right?
Well, she gives him the knife that he uses to kill
Jamis.
Yeah.
Right, and that's what I was alluding to. I apologize to interrupt, but there's also dreams that he has of Jamis teaching him how to like ride the worm.
Yeah, which was confusing.
But that's like a possible future.
Yeah, that's
where
cool.
Instead of I'm gonna fuck it. What's Javier Bardem's name? Is it Stilgar?
Stilgar.
Stilgar. Thank you. Fuck. Instead of Stilgar teaching him, it's Jamis, and like they're really good friends, and like he's the mentor. But instead, they end up hitting this future where it's like, no, I have to kill you.
Yeah.
In order to continue. And it's like, and I think that's super interesting.
Yeah.
It's like an interesting way to do that idea. that like he sees so many different possible, and even you were Chani killing him, another possible,
Right.
And then the other one is him like tearing through the army, like just killing them all,
Right.
But then in the second movie, it's actually not him at all. It does that.
It wasn't Chani doing
It's
it?
Chani
Or-
does
yeah,
it.
so, yeah.
So,
So that's cool. You're getting tastes of what's going to happen, and it's different. Like
yeah,
it's
but it's like
alternate.
it's not clear. It's like,
But I mean,
well,
like, so when he kills Jamis, it's like he's killing his former self, and her giving him the knife that lets him kill him. It's kind of like, see, I took it as like it's like not exactly, because it's like more like philosophical.
Yeah.
It's like she didn't technically kill him, but she did give him the weapon that he used to kill his former self.
Yeah.
Like,
okay, that's a good point. I like that.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah, good symbolism.
It's
that's what I thought
Symbolism,
it meant.
and it's also like
So
alternate-
you just explained to me why Jamis is in his visions in the future, because
Yeah.
I was like, why is he seeing him?
Yeah,
But it never happened. Like,
we were
so-
talking about that too the other day. You're
Thank
like,
you.
why?
Yeah.
So we were talking about that.
different
like,
interpretations.
you didn't understand like why like you were saying that. Yeah.
Maybe. I know I didn't understand what was going on in the Hunter Seeker scene,
Okay,
and that the Lynch one helped explain it to me.
whatever. That's okay. Yeah. I think that scene is perfectly self-explained. Like the fact that there's a guy trying to, like a Harkonnen stayed inside the wall or whatever.
Yeah.
Yes, you come to the aftermath of it. Like, do you need a scene of the Harkonnen like in the wall, like piloting
Yes,
the thing?
I
so
did.
You know?
And
Okay.
even Lynch's didn't have that.
Yeah. Well,
I was
think-
so confused. I'm like, so did the guy die in the wall before this thing was like out? I didn't understand that he was piloting it.
Yeah,
It was so confusing to me. And in the Lynch one, the voiceover of him explaining like how he can't move and stuff, that explained why in
That
the
actually worked for me, too.
Villeneuve one, he
I
like
agree.
moved into the hologram. I thought that was cool because he's like blurring its vision.
See, I thought it was weird too, though, because he just kind of grabs it, and I'm like, wouldn't that fucking sting you?
Well, I guess it depends how he grabs
I'm
it.
talking about in this one, in in part one, in the David Lynch one, it looks like it's like long, and it looks like a needle. So like him grabbing the shaft, you know what I mean, makes
Yeah,
sense.
you got more
Whereas
safety
this looks like
grab.
just a little tiny insect. Him grabbing it with his hand, I'm like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah, I don't know.
But there's a line the shout out Mape says of like, oh, like that could have killed me.
Yeah.
And he says, well, no, it was
meant for
it was
me.
going like I was a target. It went for the motion. None of that dialogue is in the Villeneuve one, and I had
yeah.
no idea what just happened in that scene. I had to like look it up, and I still barely knew.
So like it was clear to me it was a royalty assassination. Welcome to the planet of Arrakis. There's booby traps and things here to kill you. Hence, the people that were here, they're not happy that they left, and they left somebody here for you to like kill you. Like,
Yeah.
get ready. Like, you think that was the only booby trap? Like, he's not important. Like, he was an assassin. There's many. There's going to be other things here that are going to try to kill you. Like it was clear to me. But I get it. I get it.
I think it's funny how much the Lynch one was trucking, as you guys are saying. But in that one, we actually see them going through the halls looking for the guy.
it's true. Here's the thing. Where the Lynch one really trucks it is the back half.
Yeah, for sure.
So because I want to say if we were gonna split the Lynch one into part one and part two, like part one is like I want to say an hour 20 minutes, and then the part two is like the last 45. Like it's just like they spent a lot of time in the opening bits and not the climax, right? But,
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It just gets complicated because of the Fremen get introduced at that point, and like there are so many characters you have to introduce. Like even like so going back to Jamis is not in the Lynch one. I think he's in an alternate cut, but not like the theatrical that I watched.
Oh well, yeah. It's tough, man. It's like who do you cut, right? Like
Yeah.
You're right. He's not, because they just show up and immediately it's like, we'll take the man boy, which I laughed that they call him the man boy.
Yeah, because he's
Pretty
like
much is what he's
105
doing.
years old. Yeah,
But they want to
He's a
get
senior. Take the senior citizen 15-year-old.
oh, gee,
We'll
golly
give him some
whiz.
prune juice.
Where
Yeah.
are we going?
But then the mom just like gets who I think is Stilgar in like a chokehold.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, you were able to best one of our best, so you must be good. Okay, join our crew. Teach us the weirding way now." And that's it. And it's just like, "Oh, okay."
I will say though that is actually something from the book, but it's not Stilgar. It's Jamis. So that's why Jamis actually fights Paul in the first place. So Paul is the one. So they go to kill the mother, and Paul gets Jamis in like a chokehold, and like.
Isn't that in the Villeneuve
Oh,
one?
maybe it is in this one. But no, it's in the book for sure, though, where he gets him in the chokehold, And the reason why Jamis has to fight him is because he was bested by this child.
Yeah.
He's like, this fucking 15-year-old kid came up to my crib, like, got me in a chokehold. I'm like, no, I gotta fucking kill him now. And that's what, like, why they fight in the first place. Right. Whereas this one, I think it's...
He's defending his mom's honor in this one.
Yeah.
The mom, like, Jamis is like, well, I want to fight the mom, but because she's a woman, who's gonna be her, like...
And it
protector or whatever.
Kind of laid out the same way where he's like, I'm challenging the Reverend Mother, whatever. Like, I'm challenging the lady
I feel
who's
like,
her champion. And then he's like, I am. It's the same thing.
Right. There's universal sword fighting rules, even though there's like different like houses and different like types of like aliens, if you will, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like they all originate from humans, right, or whatever. But they all follow the same sword fighting rules,
which I like. Yeah. But I'm just saying it's more the reasoning behind it. It's like the reason why in the book is because Jamis is pissed that he was like shown up by a child. A child came into his house and was like, oh, and he thinks he's like the best fighter.
So
and he's like, wait a second.
And
maybe that is in this one.
Yeah, I don't remember how it goes down, but I still feel like I got that. Like, you're an outsider, you don't belong here. I have to fight you. This isn't like I got all that still. Like maybe it's different, but like
maybe it is in this.
I don't know. I like
it's in it, but like maybe not exactly because it is that he's defending his mom. It's not because Jamis wants to fight him. But they are also impressed that the mom, they call her, I think, like a warrior woman or something. It's like, oh, you're not just like a useless woman. You're actually going to be able to help us. So like, we'll take you in too.
There's actually a moment that I do like in this one when, in part one, when the mother, so Lady Jessica, they line up all of the potential housemaids, and then she's like, "Oh, you have a weapon on you," and then the girl starts kind of twitching out, and she's like, "I just want you to know that it's not going to be enough. Like, if you pull it, I'm taking you down." And it's like, oh, like it kind of shows her as like kind of a badass.
Yeah,
like,
she is.
She also like gets rid of everybody.
Yeah,
it's like you're the one I choose because you have a weapon.
That's it. And then the girl's like, it's actually a present. It's like a gift to you. And then she starts screaming like in tongues. And you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Also, I gotta throw it out there too. When they get to the Harkonnen planet and they're doing like the throat singing, I'm like, I couldn't help but to think of Bill and Ted. Face the Music.
Oh,
you haven't seen the third one? Okay.
Is it the Harkonnen planet or is it the Sardaukar planet?
Oh, it is. You're right. Sorry.
Because I know because the Sardaukar are their own too, and they're like stormtroopers and stuff.
Yeah.
Like they are cool, dude. Like that's something I want to say to you. Just you're talking about like looks, like the stormtroopers or the Emperor's like troopers. The fact that they hover down and stuff like that. There's really cool alien movements happening from their tech, and they're also kind of like if they're throat singing. There's also like. Seems like a traditional like background that they're also like upholding to.
Well, they have a different language too that they speak.
Yeah, and I think the opening of the movie too.
That is them,
that's it, whatever. Yeah,
and that's kind of what we were alluding to earlier, right? Is this idea that like there's just a lot of teases of like what's to come, and it's like we're not going to explain it. We're just going to tease you with weird things.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I like it. I think it's fucking cool. When they explain it later, I'm like, not as cool. That's just all I'm saying.
I get it. So did you rank them? Do you like part one more than part two?
Yeah, part two is bottom of the list for me. I don't like part two very much.
Oh, wow.
I went and saw it in IMAX. I was fucking excited. Sorry, I stopped swearing so much.
It's okay.
I was very excited, and I walked out being like, oh, it was just okay. Whereas like we were talking, I've seen this one 3 or 4 times. I'm like, you're not wrong. I said the same thing where I was like, it was not top 10. Maybe if I watch it again, I'll like it more. Yeah. But I went in pretty excited. I was like, okay, like that first one's pretty good. Like, while we're talking about this one, one thing I actually did notice, especially on the planet Caladan, I find there's a lot of the movie Arrival in this movie. I don't know if you've seen the movie Arrival.
Some of the ships look like the egg ship from Arrival too. Like I think the Harkonnen when they leave, they've got like that half dome, like semicircle look, and I'm like, yo, that's the Arrival ship like turned sideways.
Do you think it's
whatever?
So Arrival was a Denis Villeneuve movie from.
Earlier. I didn't know he did that one.
Yeah. It's like an earlier movie in his career. So I'm like, I feel like there's just a lot of the shots with like the grass and like the puddles. There's like, you can see ships. I'm like, I feel like this is Arrival. Like it just, which I liked. I thought that was kind of cool.
I think Amy Adams.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. I like that movie a lot, actually. For anybody listening, that movie's spectacular. You should go see it. Like,
yeah, it's good.
You didn't like it?
No.
What?
That's okay.
Why not? What's wrong with it?
It's okay because it's Are we gonna talk about that? Oh, okay.
Don't spoil it.
Okay. Well, that's what my problem is. Is like the problem is spoilers. Like I don't know.
All right, well then don't talk about
it.
it.
Yeah, it's okay.
I like it.
Yeah, it's fine. It's a good movie. I just didn't like how like when it reveals what it's doing and like how it goes down. I'm just like, there's better sci-fi movies than this. I'm just not impressed fully. I don't know. Like, don't get me wrong.
I thought it was
great
very
stuff,
good.
and he's the right guy for the job. Don't get me wrong. Like he's a good director. Like I loved the movie. Like for that reason, the story, I don't know how well he was involved with it.
Well, it's based off of a short story.
Okay, yeah. Well, a short story, not a full-length feature film. Like enough. It just whatever. That's fine. It's good, but I didn't like it the way everyone loves it.
Okay. Are we done with part one?
No. I want to say, like, we're talking about ships. I think this movie has to do a lot to establish what like ships look like and like costumes and outfits and stuff like that. I think it's really well. Like the look of like the Harkonnen. I also know what the Harkonnen like tech looks like and what their ships look like. Everything's really distinct. I'm a big fan of like ships and like sci-fi like that. So I think he did a really good job showcasing all that and how things behave so alien too. Like when the Harkonnen show up and they blow off those flares or whatever and they scatter or whatever. That's a really beautiful image that I had like never seen before. Right? Like there's a lot of imagery here that's like impressive. Like if you're not getting like dialogue or like there's not like voiceover happening or whatever, a lot's still happening with like what they're saying like visually. And
for sure,
I don't know, I think that's why I watch it again and again.
I'm so sorry. I was trying really hard to hold that in.
Anything else you want to say about part one? All right,
no,
me neither. I think we're good. But we talked about Duncan Idaho earlier because he dies in this one.
Actually, there's something you had to say about Duncan Idaho. You think he didn't need to die?
You're right. Yeah. Okay. So one thing I didn't notice is okay. So watching the first one again after watching the second one, he does like Paul does say a line to this lady who like trains them a little bit in the Fremen ways.
Yeah, the Dr. Keys. I think Kay is whatever her name is.
They're like in like a hideout area, and he says about like how like what if I offer the Emperor an alternative to chaos and like I marry one of his daughters. That went right over my head watching it the first time.
Me too.
Right?
Yeah.
But then knowing that like later he comes to that conclusion of like I actually do have to do that thing I said like however long ago that was supposed to be.
Yeah. So watching this, I watched this one today actually before we recorded, and two things went over my head. That was one of them where I was like, oh, they actually say that in the first one. And then another one is the first time the Baron's introduced, not him in the mud, but it's him like just kind of chilling on the throne talking to Rabin, and they're like, won't the Emperor be pissed? And he's like, he pretty much alludes to the fact that no, the Emperor is in on it. Like, but it's just the wording's like super vague. But it's like, oh, he totally does pretty much say that. No, the Emperor told me to do this. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
No. I think it was. They're like, aren't you pissed that Atreides are taking over? And he's like, what makes you think it's a good thing? Like, what makes you think he did it because he loves them? Yeah. It was like something like that. It was like, but it's super vague, and it's like, oh, it's kind of alluding to the fact that like, oh no, the Emperor wants them to die. But
that was something I got right away. Like the other thing about marrying the daughter, no way.
Yeah.
But like the other thing, I'm like, yeah, that's it. Like there's some shady like politics going on. It's not good.
Yeah.
So then right after that is when Duncan Idaho gets murdered. It's in that same scene where he says about marrying the daughters.
Oh, okay.
Or one of the daughters. And then some of the bad guys, I don't know which side it is. They show up.
It should be Fade.
But he walks out into the little hallway there, Duncan Idaho does, and closes the door and it's like, you guys get out of here. Yeah. I'm going to take care of these guys and like hold them off as long as I can. He doesn't say anything, but like that's what he's doing, right? Like looks at him and like gives him a look like that.
Yeah.
He had no reason to die in that scene.
No, he could have just walked the door.
The amount of time it took for... Would you say her name was Dr. Keys?
I think it's Keys. It's something like that.
Okay,
yeah.
So that lady...
Max von Sydow from David Lynch's one.
She opens like the little exit door thing.
Yeah.
So quickly.
The
amount of time that Paul spends going like... Duncan! Like, oh no! Let's open this door, and like he's like fighting and pounding on the door. Like the amount of time that takes is like the amount of time that Duncan bought them. It didn't line up right. Like it just,
for sure.
I don't know. I understand that Duncan Idaho had to die, but I don't think it went down well. It should have taken her longer to get the door open, and it's like, okay, we can go now, and it's like just as he's dying, and it's like, oh man, if he didn't go out there, they wouldn't have made it out of here. But yeah, that I found annoying.
And that's why part 2 is better.
Part 2 is lame.
Whatever, that's okay.
I wouldn't say just because that one part.
No, but I agree with you on that. I think there is like, that he needs to die for it to be effective. I think especially like in this movie, but like, could he have died by like fade? Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it would have set him up.
Right. Like,
because here's the thing.
Clear the room with all the starter car, but then that's your first time you get to see Fade, and he kills your best buddy, Duncan. Oh my goodness, are we going to have a rematch later?
Oh, 100%.
Right? Like this, yeah, I get it.
And there's actually a scene where Idaho's talking about fighting one of the Fremen. And he was like, I almost died. Like, but I had to take him out, but like, he almost got me. That's how good he is.
Yeah.
Well, the first person that Paul kills is a Fremen. So if Duncan Idaho couldn't kill Faye, whatever the fuck his name is, like Austin Butler's character, but he could kill Fremen, Paul killing the Fremen first and then having to fight, you said, the big boss. It would have just set it up. Personally.
I get it. Yeah, no, it's true. It's okay though. Like,
nitpicking.
Yeah.
I'm nitpicking.
No, we are nitpicking though, but nitpicking so soon because I think it is such a tight movie and it's really well made. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like,
I'm just, the only reason why I'm nitpicking it, honestly, is because I think it hurts the second one. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Personally. All right, we're moving on to the second one.
Part 2.
Part 2.
Part 2.
Talk about it. That was a stutter.
All right. So far, it's my favorite movie this year. So from what I've seen, it's not been a lot, right? Like, mind you, like, we're in April now of 2024, and Dune Part 2 is at the top of the list, and I'm curious to see what will bump it. Because as much as I like Part 1, this, to me, Part 2 feels like everything that Part 1 promised, it delivers on. And I thought it was a really good, that's not necessarily wrap-up, but a good conclusion to what it was set up from the first movie, or continuation, if you will.
How about you? You like the love story, right?
I do, for like mostly, yes, I do, because you get to know more about her character. But I also like just learning about the Fremen ways and the adventures they go on, and like riding on the sandworm, and like the mom talking to the baby in the belly and like, be quiet. It's like stuff like that. Okay. I get a kick out of that kind of stuff.
Do you think the child works better as like a little girl or a fetus?
I love the fetus. The fetus makes sense. I kind of dig the fetus too.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I'll always pick the little girl just because it's fucking ridiculous to have this little girl walking around busting out like words like just the sentences that she has to say are insane. But I think the fetus works actually for what they're going for. It's like this like telekinetic, like I'm into it.
Yeah, so I don't know how it goes down in the books, but in the Lynch movie, it says that when she drinks the water of life, it caused her to have her baby prematurely.
Yeah.
And that she had all the powers of a Reverend Mother. I think that is so cool.
Oh, it's badass.
That the baby has all those powers. And I didn't fully get that from this one, that was what was going on. Like the Part 2 movie, I mean. I got that the kid could like communicate with her and like it must have affected her in some way. But the fact that she has all those powers, that's really cool.
It's very cool.
And if she's like born prematurely, the mom was like maybe a couple weeks pregnant.
Oh, well,
in the Lynch
hold up.
In all of them.
In the Lynch one, they kind of do a time jump. They're like...
That's not clear, eh?
Well, no, it's very clear. They say like, oh, it's like 2 years. It's been like 2 years since they started. No, and then that's when they explain like she had a baby.
But it says that she had the baby prematurely because she drank from the water of life.
Yeah, but just because it's prematurely doesn't mean it's. Oh, like I guess they do show her drinking from the.
We see her drink from it.
Yeah, but they don't.
And it's like similar to the Villeneuve one where she's not showing. Paul like just recently said, "Hey, I know you got my daughter in there."
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it's like I don't know. It also says that she ages like more rapidly.
Yeah, that's
so
good
it's
point.
like I guess maybe right out of the womb she aged super rapidly, so she was able to not just be like a little teeny little dot, but like
little sand monkey.
I don't know, like. I mean, I've had a couple babies. I've seen those early ultrasounds. It looks like a little shrimp at first.
Yeah. I thought, okay, when the baby... First of all, they establish that the baby's there and he's talking to her before she gets, like, juiced. And I thought that was really cool because if he's psychic or, like, able to communicate with her? Like, is he just like maybe just talking to her? But like, I'm of the impression that he's like talking to her, and she might already be able to pick it up, right? Like, his mom's not a witch, like, or is a witch already. She's not like there isn't like maybe something already going on. But then when the blue juice happens and you see it go through like the fetus, I got worried, like, oh, maybe it's gonna die. Like,
That's
I don't
what I
know
thought.
I don't know what's gonna happen. Like, I'm not remembering, but like, it would make sense that like, even if the mom is somehow super powered too, and the baby, like, together they're like a super being, and like whatever that's making is scary and dangerous. It sounds like, or it feels like, but also like kind of cool and comical. The way she tells the baby to be quiet in one scene, she's like, quiet, and she's like, I'm like, oh, cool. There's like, it's like two people like in one body like fighting over who's in charge or whatever.
It's
I'm
like Tom Hardy and Venom.
Yeah, right. Yes. Yeah. There's a little of that going on, and I'm like, that's a really interesting development from the first movie. She does like a really complete change.
Yeah.
And he's even really real with Paul about it too. It's like, I'm about to just get a whole bunch of like pain and suffering from like a whole bunch of other people like poured onto me. I have no idea what to expect. And he loses his mom. They even joke about it. And I find that so tragic that like the Fremen people are laughing at him, and he's like, what's so funny? What's going on? They're like, shut up. He's about to lose his mom like forever. Like, she's never going to be the same. And it's true.
Well, they
She's
thought
not.
she was going to die.
Well, yeah.
But you're right. He did still lose her.
Yeah, he lost her, dude. She's gone. And I don't care what you say. I'm not drinking the blue juice, dude. I wouldn't have done it. Like that's just my whole thing. I was like, oh, man, as soon as he does that, like, it's bad. It felt bad. Even though it was, like, the right thing to do, and it's how the movie completes, like, I don't think it was the right thing. Like, it still, like, was, like, it obviously unlocks the next step of the story, and then he does, like, the Jesus thing, like, or whatever. But, like, you kind of... I don't know. That's kind of a cool moral thing. Would you have taken the blue juice? Like, knowing that you kind of have to kickstart this war, knowing like all these like big boy questions that you're having to like struggle with. Do you drink the Kool-Aid or not, or whatever? All that stuff. I'm on the edge of my seat for it. Like, it's setting this up. Like, he's about to change the course of like history. He probably is the threat that all the Bene Gesserit are worried about. She might have done it. Like, Jessica might have actually bred the proper one. Like, this is it. Right, so like, I'm buying into it, and all that stuff really worked for me, especially with the mom. Like, the mom turning, because like, you get a scene with her at the beginning. You get the mom that we had from the first movie, but now she's just a little bit more pregnant. Like, in that opening too, like that fight with the Harkonnen in like the jet suits and all that stuff. Really great way to like show the change. Like, they've obviously been out in the desert for a little bit. They're trying to survive, and things are going to change from what they had. Some crazier, I think so.
Talk about the love story.
Yeah.
What's awesome about it?
Okay, so I kind of really like the scene where she's teaching him how to sandwalk.
Yeah.
It's kind of
like... She's like, you suck at this?
Yeah, but it's kind of
like a date.
like the classic scene in those like kind of Hallmark type movies where like maybe the girl can't drive stick or something, and the guy is going to teach her how to do it, but it's like now she's teaching him how to like walk in the sand. It's like they still have those little moments in there, and that's enough for me, who's not necessarily a huge sci-fi lover, to find something in the movie that's like I connect to that.
All right.
I thought it was really effective too. Like, he's puppy dog like eyes or whatever. I'm like, I'm buying him loving her, and I'm buying her being like, cut it out, you're being weird, but like is into it. Love it. Yeah. They did a really good job, the two of them. I thought I bought them, and even as their relationship changes too, like, he's starting to get more power, and she's starting to lose him. Like, I felt all that struggle. Like, she can feel him slipping out of her fingers. Like later, like when Gurney comes around, she doesn't trust them, right? Like, stuff like that. Love it. Like, there's a lot of good
It's
stuff
true.
there.
And even that final bit where he's like, I'll always love you, and then as long as I breathe, and then he offers to marry the other girl, and you're like, woo.
Yeah.
Like, you can see it on her face. Like, it's like,
She did
oh,
good. Yeah.
shit. Like, I felt it. I was like, that sucks.
Yeah.
That's hard.
And you want to talk about a cliffhanger, bro? Like, that's a great cliffhanger. Like, okay, what's gonna happen? Like, what happens to all these people? I want to know. I'm gonna get my ticket for part 3 whenever it comes out. I want to know. Like, that's it.
So like, that is a major change, eh? Like, so in the original source material, she just goes along with them. Like, so Lady Jessica is Duke Leto's concubine. I'm not sure what that means. Like, but like, it's pretty much like side piece. Like, right? Because he's saving himself to marry royalty. Like,
but he never does.
But he never does. And he even says to her, like, I should have married you. Which they almost, like, he says it here. The David Lynch one says it, like, he's like, I should have married you. Whereas Paul actually does it. But even though they're married, Chani's still his concubine. Like, he's pretty much his mistress.
He still makes babies with
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
like,
at the end of this one, though, she just pieces. She's like, all right, well, fuck you then. She gets out of there. So, interesting. Where's this going? Like, what are they going to do now? Like,
yeah. And I'm okay if they take a little bit. Like, I'm not connected to the book. So if they're going to adapt it and do it a little bit differently, I'm fine with that. Like, within reason. But, like, I do think now to have, like, a side piece character to be like, yeah, I'm fine with this, I'll go along with it or whatever, is kind of like, I could see how people would have a problem with that as a character thing. So I could see her being a foil. I could see her being some sort of like problem for him that like he needs to kind of like resolve, or like it resolves but it doesn't go the way it should, right? Like that sort of thing. I'm into that. I also think like he meant it. Like, I don't love this other chick. I don't even know her, dude. I love you, but like I'm gaming to beat the system right now, and I have to marry this girl to beat the system. I'm sorry, or so he thinks.
Even Florence Pugh, who has a very cool headdress at the end of this.
Yeah, the knives one, the one with the knives.
Very cool.
Yeah. She's into some weird shit.
Sorry,
she's into some weird stuff. I don't know if she's gonna be like. She might not be good wife material, but she might be a freak. Like, I'm just kidding. Never mind. Like,
but she's obviously not into it either. She's just like, all right, you don't kill my dad, I'll go do whatever you want, kind of thing. So it's a marriage of convenience. It's a marriage of it's
a political marriage.
Exactly.
Definitely.
It's a business.
But
business
like
relationship.
this is what I'm saying, dude. Like space politics, George Lucas wishes he could pull off, like in his Star Wars movies.
He tried. Episode 1, he tried.
Yeah, boring compared to what's going on here, right? And it's a love triangle. It's like there's different types of politics happening, but it's very juicy, very, very impressive.
One character that just kind of disappears, I just want to throw out there. I don't actually remember his name. It's like the security officer, though, from the first one. Stephen, I believe his name's Stephen McHattie, like the actor. The chubbier fella who,
with the eyes that blink.
With the eyes that...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, what happens to him?
It's a good point. I assume he's just killed in battle.
So he's in the David Lynch one, he's the guy that, like, they
Bushy
poison...
eyebrows.
And they're like, every day you have to milk this cat to get the antidote out. Like that, it's that character. So like, was that planned to like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know.
I assumed he just died in the
battle,
like palace or wherever they were living.
Because
he said like we took out like the House Atreides, and then even in the second movie, you've got Fade fighting like 3 people that were like from the House Atreides. He's not one of them, but I assume
it's like the assumption is he killed everybody.
He's just there.
Yeah, they're all dead.
But I mean, Gurney got away. So.
Yeah, he did, and like he's an exception too because he's also rocking like Sardaukar armor.
Yeah.
Like when like he drops, he's hovering the same way. Like he killed some people and then he kept their armor because he knows it's valuable. Love it.
I do like that as well, and I do like because he recognizes his footsteps. He's like, and that's how he knows it's Gurney. It's
great.
Like, hey, I recognize those. Like, very cool. I do like that. Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot to say about part 2 to be honest with you, unfortunately. So I'll let you guys go ahead.
All right.
If you got anything else to say.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I want to say that yes, there's more characters added to this, and maybe some of them don't feel like they're necessary or whatever. I think everybody's added when they need to be added for their purpose. And yes, like for example, Fade is like I feel almost like a lesser of a character. He's more of like a speed bump in a way. The characters that carried over from the first movie, I think their relationships as they get to unfold, like with Gurney and like with Paul, like you get to see them after they've been through some stuff together, and like that is special because of what you saw them and how different they were in the first movie. Things like that really paid off well for me, I think. I want to get, I suppose, if we're done. Is there any other characters you want to talk about? Like, because I think, like, aside from Paul being like a Jesus character or like kind of like a character that we all kind of want to like aspire to be, like maybe we all don't become the emperor of the universe. That story of him like rising to power is something that's like it's very fascinating. And even though I know it's coming, I thought it was told in such a way that like at any point this could go sideways for him, and he's not gonna make it out alive. He's like, he's gonna die, right? So I don't know. That's kind of hard to do, because if you can kind of see what's gonna come, then you're not so like worried about the hero. Like, is he gonna live or not? Like, oh, he'll make it. I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen. Like, I'm getting stuff, like he's getting visions even that kind of maybe change my mind. Like, oh, like, is he gonna, like, is his mom like gonna lead him to war? Like, or is Chani gonna lead him to war? What's happening? Like, I don't know. So.
Even the idea too, like they kind of say that there's no good ending. Like for him, like he kind of has this like these visions of either he dies or billions of people die because he goes to war. It's like no matter what, it's bad. What's he gonna choose? And I do think that's kind of interesting, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. And then finally, I felt maybe okay for Paul. I say the fact that he got to kill his grandfather, and the fact that it's revealed like to him, like who his grandfather is, and like how that all played out. That felt like a little bit like maybe not so much a Luke, I am your father like moment, but that's kind of a huge deal, bro. Like, because for him, once he finds out he's like part Harkonnen or whatever, he's like, okay, well, it's time to start acting like one.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay, well, the gloves are off now. He goes and does the Jesus thing where he like gives like a dude like a memory. He spits a memory out of him like he would only know or whatever. And you're like, oh, he's doing like, is he all powerful? Like, he drank the juice. Is he like I'm still not sure what's gonna happen. Is he gonna die? Like, is he gaining enough power at the right momentum to make it, or is he gonna fail? Like, is he gonna burn out? I'm still like on the edge of my seat with all that stuff. So I think that was really well done. And I will say we got 2 movies this year where the main character takes a knife in order to take that knife out and stab it. I think Roadhouse did a good job, but Dune did it better, I think.
I do agree.
We're talking just that whole final fight at the end, dude. Like, shot in like the magic hour, like sunlight or whatever. Everybody's there. Like, everybody who didn't die from the beginning of the story is in that room, like waiting for like the final result of that or whatever. Like, as an audience member, like I'm on the edge of my seat the whole time. I think, I don't know. It's well done, dude. I think that Dune Part 2 is everything that was promised with the setup, like minus a couple of nitpicks. And even to like technologically wise, the things that they were doing on like the Harkonnen home planet with like, so I looked this up. So they shot with AR filters or like infrared infrared filters on the sensor of the cameras, so that what that would do is limit the amount of light that comes into the sensor to record. So when they're on their planet in the sunlight, that black sun, it's actually like only certain amounts of light that we're actually seeing, because the sun is like taking light away instead of emitting light. So everybody's face, they all look like they're made out of like marble almost. You're actually like seeing through the skin, the layers of skin, and everything they said, like when they were making it, had to be tested. So makeup had to be tested, clothing had to be tested, certain extras, their tattoos would show through the makeup if they were, so everything had to be tested like with this proper lighting setup and stuff like that. I thought that was so alien looking and so fascinating that they would on purpose ruin their like a part of their film, because they said there wasn't like an after like a post thing. They shot it like that. There's no going back. Like, there's no way to like recorrect it later if you want to or whatever and stuff. And it was very subtle effect. For me, that's stuff that sticks out, and for me makes Fade even very more menacing, because he looks very alien in that, like those scenes and stuff. So I thought that was something, again too, like a lot of your CGI, a lot of your stuff is pretty standard, I think, but there were still like in-camera tricks that weren't visual effects, or weren't visual effects, they were special effects that they were trying, and I think that's something that we need to be doing more of, I think. So that was something that was really cool for me. It stuck out. I liked.
So just to point on that, I know watching it, you told me that was an effect they did, but I couldn't figure out how that was any different than just filming it in
black
like
and white
grayscale. Because
right.
it
Even just doing it in post, like just
Yeah.
do it in post. Who cares?
But like you wouldn't get the same effect. You wouldn't, and it would be black and white, sure, and you could do that or whatever. But I think that's still something I want to see more of, like like trying stuff like that. I think
Sure.
that was really cool. But I don't know, like that's minor. I get what you mean though. Like in some ways, if it's kind of just the climax of what the first movie set up, it's kind of almost like a checkbox of like all the things. But the whole time, I'm not sure if Paul's gonna make it the whole time, and I think that's impressive, because you kind of need to believe in somebody, but they're human. And like his whole thing too, like there's a point after he drinks the juice, he's a little bit more focused, like on like what he has to do. But all before that, he's saying all the right things, like to Stilgar to make him be like, oh, it's him. Oh, like he doesn't want the fame. He doesn't want to like become a king. He just wants to learn our ways, just like the prophecy said. And you're like, oh well, that's kind of interesting though. Like, say what you will about like the people that don't believe in the prophecy because they have that like thing or whatever. Like, there's people that doubt Paul like all the time. It's like not everybody buys into the fact that he's a thing, and I think that's important. Like, regardless of what you do, there's always going to be people that say you can't do that. I don't believe in you. And there's going to be people that support you and be like, yes, you can do that. Yes, you can. Right. And like, he's navigating this alien world, trying to still be who he is with all these people. Oh man, dude, that's like, it's like every day is like that. And it's distilled in this movie. I thought it was really well made like that way. So,
okay. Jodorowsky's ending. What do you think of that?
Oh, interesting ending. Cause honestly, that's kind of what he's okay. If Timothée Chalamet's Paul did get murdered, it's kind of what like I was expecting too. I was honestly like, dude, if he gets murdered, like that could very well happen. And the fact that Jodorowsky's ending, he gets sliced and then he turns into Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think that's like, or he does an Obi-Wan Kenobi where it's like he becomes the planet or whatever. Yeah. I think that's a little bit like Deus Ex Machina. It's like there's no other way to end this except for the planet becomes alive, it turns into ego, and then like flies off or whatever. Sorry,
so his ending
odd.
Ending is
explain it better.
Paul gets killed in the battle, in the final battle.
His throat is slit
by Fade.
By Fade, and then everybody, they're like, "Oh, Paul's dead," blah blah blah. But then everybody starts speaking in Paul's voice, like, "Oh, I am." I'm trying
strike me down and I will become 10,000
I am
more
Wadid.
powerful.
Strike me down and
Or that's a line from Star Wars. That's the Obi-Wan pulling the Obi-Wan. If you strike me down, Darth, I'll be more powerful. And he does.
And that's pretty much it. So that everybody starts speaking. I am Wadid. I am Paul. Blah blah. And then it starts raining, and then the ecosystem's completely destroyed. But like, you know what I mean?
Like, the spice is gone forever.
Yeah.
I think Jodorowsky's and Lynch's endings are like, we got to wrap this up so that everybody feels like they had like a happy ending, and like that's fine, but I know it's not a happy ending, so them going off to war is the better ending. And like, he got stabbed, bro. Like he didn't make it out like scot-free or whatever. He took a couple of like licks and he's still going. So it's like, I like Denis Villeneuve's ending the best. Of the three like alternate like ways it could be done, I think not making the planet like rain and like ruin everything, the spice is still like very valuable, and I don't want to jeopardize that.
I do agree with that.
The love triangle angle like really got me interested though, like from the new one, like you're saying. Like, so I mean, I don't care about like how he dies, any of the fighting stuff, like that's not my cup of tea, but like, I don't know. I was kind of like, okay, whatever. Like, this big fight between him and this Fade guy, whatever, right? But then it's like, oh, you want to marry her? What about her?
Yeah.
So I'm like, to me, like, that was, you know.
When he's like, hey, you want to get married? You're the person in the theater like, oh.
No, what are you doing?
What?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that was me. Actually, Morgan told me, shh.
All the ladies in the theater are like, no, stop it.
Yeah.
They already got their friend on speed dial. Like, you'd never guess this motherfucker just said.
Yeah. No, that's true. But it is. It's juicy, dude. Like, if you're not there for like, because I'm invested more in Paul than I am in the love story. Because like, I didn't know it was gonna go like that either. But it's like, if you're not invested in like, man, is he gonna make it or is he gonna die? Like, I don't know. Like, even Gurney's doubting him and stuff like this. There's a lot against him in writing on this. So that's fascinating. But then on top of that, they give you that little like love triangle thing. Like, once it's all over, dude, it doesn't stop. Like, it's like they keep piling it on, but in a way that's like, oh, and then, oh my goodness, and then, oh wow. I don't know.
I will say, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think part 2 is a good mix for like traditional guys and girls.
Yes,
for sure.
Right, it's not you've got your sci-fi stuff in there, but the love story, like, I mean, I mentioned like the like him or her helping him sandwalk, but there's so much more that fits into those tropes too. Like, even the fact that she doesn't really like him at first, like that's also one of those kind of tropes. Like, it just, it's all there
Yeah.
within this sci-fi movie, and I think that's great.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
That's it too, even to help with that. Like he's starting to like learn their ways, and like it impresses her. Right? Like he's actually like he's not just like a bum or whatever. He's riding the biggest sandworm or whatever. It's like, how could you not be like, yo, this dude's like a rock star. I'm like with him, bro.
Actually,
like this hot.
That's something that Denis Villeneuve did better than Lynch, is setting up why it matters that he's riding a giant worm.
Yes.
Because it just kind of happens in the Lynch one. And it's like, okay, cool, he's riding a worm now. Okay.
Yeah.
But in this, like, we understand that that's like a rite of passage of him becoming part of their tribe.
Yeah. I will say, going back to the ending too. So I will say I do like I don't like the idea of it starting to rain on Arrakis. I think it kind of goes against the purpose. And I do think that they do a good job with this. Because you even said it yourself, though, where you're like, Arrakis is the villain in the first one a little bit. I like the idea that it's like, no. Arrakis isn't that big a problem if you know how to navigate it.
Desert power.
And like the desert people know how to navigate it. So the second it starts raining, you're ruining the life of the like you fucking our whole entire lives we spent.
I'm pretty sure that would kill the worms too. I don't think the movies get into it, but isn't that a thing in the books that like the worms actually like they thrive in the desert because it's dry?
Probably.
And like
I don't know.
Yeah, I think that was like a thing.
Yeah, I know when the one woman, she takes the baby worm and puts it in the water. I assume it died. Like she like
so the water kills the
like like I assume because it like its insides start coming out and then she like sticks it in there. It's like she sacrificed the baby worm to like get the juice.
Yeah,
like it's not clear, mind you.
I think
like
that I think you're right with that.
Yeah, like you put it in the water, it's gonna just like break down. Like it needs the sand to be alive in or whatever. I don't know if you could resuscitate it or whatever. I don't know if that's even possible.
No, I'm pretty sure that like she killed it, like you're saying. I forgot she puts it in water.
I forgot.
Because even here, how it doesn't eat him. Like, sorry, it is on background.
Right now, we should say we're watching part 1 on mute. Like as we're.
But how it doesn't eat them, and they say like, oh, someone set off a thumper, but it could have still ate them if it wants to.
Yeah.
But I think.
Or is he powerful? Like, is he powerful or not? Right? Like, this is this thing. Like, does the worm recognize the prophecy?
I think it recognizes that he's not a threat, so it doesn't have to try to eat him.
It's a mystery. It's left to your interpretation.
Right? It reminds me of like teeth.
Yeah. Oh boy.
I don't know. Yeah. I've never seen a vagina look like that. I'm sorry. Like this, yeah. It's circular like that. Even it doesn't look like a vag, and like the other one might look
and
like a pee-pee.
And that one where
but
you
like,
just saw like the mouth inside it open and close.
Oh,
like,
okay, like the movement maybe, but like it's an alien, dude. Like I don't know what you want. Like this, like I think they look cool. Like it's like. It does remind me.
It looks like a giant worm.
Yeah,
And
that was actually that was one thing missing, and that's why I want to watch Jodorowsky's like adaptation, like cartoon adaptation. Is like there's like a couple of images of what the worm looks like, but it looks flat. It looks like a tape, like a centipede almost or whatever. We don't get a good look at it. Like what was his worm gonna look like?
That's a great question.
Like this, like because his a lot of his like helicopter, like dragonfly helicopter things. Like he had images that looked different than like how. The new Dune did theirs, and obviously, like everybody's got their own interpretation or whatever, right? But...
Oh, sorry, I see them doing sign language, and that reminds me of just something that the Lynch one had done was have those translator machines.
Yeah.
Oh, that was cool.
So again, depending who you're recommending this to, does the person really hate subtitles? Because there is like I didn't even really notice how much there was, but like there is a lot to read in these movies.
Yeah.
The Villeneuve ones.
But like subtitles or like thought bubbles, like it's a different way to convey more information. Like again more time than Lynch's. Like he's got 5 hours or 6 hours to tell his story, but like with sign language, you can say more maybe than you could, like with what like thoughts. Like clearly like the language is like motivated by the thoughts, so you don't hear what they're thinking, but you can see that she's like signing to people or whatever. I thought it was cool.
I thought the sign language thing was really cool because it's like they're able to communicate where hopefully the people around them aren't able to understand what they're saying. It's like secret code that they can do to each other.
Yeah. Oh, another technical thing too. I don't know how they did the Harkonnen flying suits at the beginning of part 2. I thought that was a really, really well done scene. Just the whole like them falling, them getting lasered out, them like knowing that the worm's coming, all that stuff. I really loved it. But then even the fact that they shot it during an actual eclipse.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. So there's a scene where like he's got his back, and like the mom kills him, and they come down the hill or whatever. There's an eclipse like in the background. That's a real eclipse they shot like during or whatever. So that's another technical impressive like thing that they're like, yeah, we're timing this location with this like lineup of this eclipse that we're gonna get. It was like a partial eclipse. It wasn't even a full one. Yeah. But you're getting like the sun with like the moon in it and stuff like that. I'm like, hey, like when I saw it, like I know, so like where we live, we were in the path of the eclipse that just happened not too long ago. We were like a full one, and like seeing that there, I'm like, oh, that's got to be some sort of like special effect or whatever. But like I guess they actually like planned for that. So it's like, man, that's good on you, dude. Like,
I mean, that's crazy. That's stressful though. Like,
but then like it pays off. Like when you see that, you're like, wow, that's impressive. That looks alien. That looks like something I've never seen before.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think among all of them, like Jodorowsky's, whatever his was going to be, clearly inspires like the next like wave of sci-fi like that comes after that. But like I like the look of the Denis Villeneuve one the best. Like just how everything looks, the cinematography, the way like the suits look, the way the ships look, who they got, the pretty people to be in it. I think it's gonna be hard to beat Dune. I would say even part 2, it would be hard to beat it. Like as far as like what it gives, like it's giving a lot too. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I hope Villeneuve doesn't do it. I kind of want him to just do another movie. I like all of his movies.
He's gonna do what he's doing right now. He's taking a break, which is fine because if the next story takes place a little bit later, if everybody grows a little bit, that's actually a good thing. Like if they get older, that's fine. Like let him do something else. Like do like a Nolan where you're just like, okay, palate cleanser. I want to do this thing.
Just something small because a lot of his small movies are awesome. I love Enemy. I loved like.
I haven't seen Enemy.
Enemy's fantastic. It's a cool movie. Prisoners is so good. Like. Sicario is amazing. I just watched Sicario recently.
Sicario,
I'm like, God, that movie's so good.
I'm like, what do I know? What else has he done that?
Arrival, and then Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah, I really like Blade Runner. That's that one. Yeah.
It was one of those things where he did Blade Runner, and then they announced Dune. I was like, I guess
makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, like he did okay.
I think Dune's the first thing I like of his.
Oh. Well, there's more. He also did that Polytechnique one. I haven't seen.
That was one of his first movies. That's a fantastic movie.
Yeah,
that's like about the
school shooting in Quebec or whatever. Yeah,
in Quebec. Yeah, and then he did. I believe he did Incendies as well, right? Am I wrong about that one?
I think you're right, but I haven't seen that one either.
Yeah.
I don't know. Good on him though.
Prisoners is really good. You didn't like Prisoners?
I actually didn't see that one. But of the ones that you guys said earlier that I have seen, or kind of ones I was like, eh.
Oh, well, fine then.
Yeah, that's okay.
I think it's just more of what I like versus what you guys like.
There's no love triangles in Arrival.
Okay, not
well,
not that everything I enjoy
story.
needs to have a love story. I just find that's a way to get me in there.
Denis Villeneuve doesn't do Hallmark movies. We get it.
He does. It's Dune 2.
Such a good Hallmark movie though.
And it has good humor too.
The fashion's amazing. Like, let's be honest.
Can I say just about the Dune franchise? I think in general, we're also I think omitting there was a series that I hadn't watched.
I have watched it.
Yeah, is it good? Is it worth?
You know what? I also only watched. I watched it in high school, so I don't remember a lot of it. So I can't. That's why I never brought it up. I can't really say if it was good or not.
Okay, that's well maybe
I do remember it. I want to say it was the first version of Dune I ever watched.
Oh,
I want to say that's why I read the book. And then I watched Lynch's after that, and then you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I do remember the fight at the end was really cool. That was all I remember.
Okay,
but
maybe it's worth checking that out. I will say I think just Dune the story, it's so fascinating to me to see how much that it inspires people to try their best, and even if it's not the best, to try really hard to achieve something that a lot of people will write off as impossible or hard to do. Kind of like Paul. Like if you think about like David Lynch or even like Alejandro Jodorowsky being like their own version of Paul, where they're up against crazy obstacles to try to overcome something and try to achieve it. Like I think that's something to be said about the source material is impressive enough that it attracts filmmakers or storytellers to it, and then causes them to try to release their best or try to do their best towards it, or maybe their bare minimum like sellout version of it or whatever. No offense, Lynch or whatever, but like to at least try something that a lot of people are saying you can't do it. Yeah, I don't believe in you. I don't think it's gonna work out or whatever. I think that's pretty impressive. Also, like there was also an attempt that Ridley Scott tried to do as well, which I find fascinating, of Dune or whatever. And it's like, oh well, like how many people had like a go at this and then it like left an impression on them to like carry on and do other things, like Ridley like later goes on to do Alien and stuff like that. I think there's a mark that the franchise or the story that Dune leaves on just like how filmmakers and storytellers have like told stories since. And I think that's something to be marveled at. And I think not that like maybe all the Dune movies are better than Star Wars, like, because I really like 4 and 5 a lot. I think Denis Villeneuve's Part 1 and Part 2 are like up there, like with like what Star Wars is doing, like old Star Wars even. I think it's a lot better than a lot of what Star Wars has done. And I don't know if it'll ever get the same kind of like fandom that Star Wars has acquired over the years. Like it shouldn't, because I think it's more about like it caters maybe more to an artist like thing than, let's say, like a fan. But I don't know.
I think it's good enough to go out on. Anything else? You good?
Yeah, I'm good. I had like a little kind of joke, but it's not.
Go ahead. We gotta hear it.
It's not really a joke. No, it's just okay. Did you guys see Little Women? Like the newer one?
Yeah, the Greta Gerwig one. Yeah.
Yeah. So in that one, Florence Pugh is like, she ends up marrying Timothée Chalamet's character, but it's like his second choice. And it's
my goodness. Actually, imagine if they spliced images of Little Women into Dune when he's having those visions. It's like a different.
It's another world. It's another dimension.
Yeah. So she keeps being his second choice.
That's okay. You know what? I ship them, like, or whatever. Like in a spaceship, I mean.
You're right. That was a better way to go out on. Okay. You good?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm done.
You good?
I'm good.
Good. I think we're good. All right. Till next time.
Are we saying bye? Do
you want to do bye?
Yeah.
All right,
I didn't tell her about this.
All right, we're just gonna we just say bye. That's how we end it.
Okay.
You ready? 3, 2, 1. Bye. Wow, you put no effort into that. That's okay.
Do it again.
I wasn't sure like how loud you guys were going.